Chapter 44. Who is it? The three cultivators failed on the verge of success and couldn't help but become flustered and exasperated, especially the cultivator controlling the silver net. He couldn't help but shout. At the same time, the three cultivators turned their heads and looked in Sumo's direction. At this time, Sumo also jumped out, a rather awkward and pained expression on his face. "Fellow cultivators, I was too slow. I was too slow." Sumo cupped her fists and apologized. "I wanted to help, but it turned out to be a fool's errand. Damn it. Damn it. Humph." The three cultivators glanced at Sumo's outfit. Although they could not tell Sumo's cultivation level, their eyes were filled with disdain. If that wasn't a beggar, then how could he be a rogue cultivator? Judging from that move, he was only at the 3rd or 4th stage of chi training. Was he really causing trouble? However, even though they hated Sumo to the core, they were not in the mood to care about Sumo. Catching the little white pig was more important. This reckless beggar, we'll talk about it later. After him, one of the cultivators yelled. One of the cultivators waved his hand and collected Senior Brother Fan's corpse and storage pouch. Then, the three of them gave chase. Sumo put away her bamboo pole and followed closely. However, they were only 2 to 3 miles away from the punishing heart cliff. Just now, with that delay, the little white pig was already close to the punishing heart cliff. The three cultivators and Sumo jumped up and down a few times, but could only watch as the little white pig climbed up the punishing heart cliff. The so-called punishing heart cliff was actually a mountain. However, the shape of the mountain was rather unique. It looked like a heart that was split in half from the middle. Also, the entire mountain was grayish-white. Only the punishing heart cliff was blood-red. Even under the moonlight, it looked rather eerie. In the daytime, from afar, it looked like a bleeding heart. There was a legend in the White Bone mainland that the punishing heart cliff did not belong to this place. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of years ago it flew here from beyond the heavens. However, there was no evidence to back up the legend. However, the three cultivators who were in hot pursuit stopped at the bottom of the condemnation cliff in unison. In fact, the mountain was not tall, and there was a gap in the middle. 4 cultivators of the 4th or 5th level of chi cultivation, it was not difficult at all and was extremely easy to climb. However, the 3 cultivators did not ascend the cliff. Sumo, who didn't know the reason, couldn't help but ask, "Fellow Taoists, why aren't you chasing after them?" The cultivator who used the silver net looked at Sumo and sneered, "Little beggar, which cultivation sect are you from? Don't you know that punishing heart cliff belongs to my forbidden land of bones?" Forbidden land of bones. Sumo was shocked. This was because he had never heard of the White Bones Forbidden Land. In the 5 Wheels, he had only heard that the Silent Death Valley was a forbidden area for cultivators. However, no matter if it was the mission that he accepted or Windmill Suyike, they did not say that he could not set foot on the punishing heart cliff. Otherwise, why would he come? Could it be that the Forbidden Land of Bones was a forbidden land for bone cultivators? If it was a forbidden area in the entire Bone mainland, how could the 5 Wheels know about it? Sumo pondered. Could these 3 cultivators be cultivators from the Slekton sect? Wasn't this a small world? 5 Wheels and the Slekton sect had tens of thousands of years of grudges. Although they looked peaceful on the surface, they were constantly fighting. His identity must not be exposed, otherwise, it would bode ill rather than well. I am a rogue cultivator, so I have never heard of the Forbidden Land of Bones. Are the 3 of you fellow Taoists from the Slekton sect? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Sumo hurriedly smiled apologetically. He didn't dare to reveal his identity as a disciple of the 5 Wheels. A rogue cultivator? The 3 cultivators exchanged glances with each other, and a sinister smile flashed across their eyes. Now that the little soul-devouring beast had hidden itself in the punishing heart cliff, it was no longer possible to lure it out. Not only did they fail to catch the beast, they even lost a senior brother. It was a huge loss. In the world of cultivators, the strong preyed on the weak. At this moment, the three cultivators already had killing intent towards Sumo. Not from the same sect, traveling alone, and having a low cultivation level. Who wouldn't like such an opponent? After killing Suemo, they would be able to divide his storage pouch among themselves. No matter how many things there were, a mosquito's leg was still meat. It wasn't the first time these cultivators from the Slekton sect had done something like this. Therefore, the three cultivators understood each other's intentions the moment they looked at each other. Kill. One of them, who was in the 5th stage of the Chi refinement realm, attacked first. A flying sword went straight for Sumo's heart. Although Sumo also felt that the atmosphere wasn't right, and even regretted following them on impulse, she didn't expect the three cultivators to attack as they were talking. That sword was clearly aimed at her life. In fact, Sumo had only cultivated for a short period of time. The world of cultivators was countless times more dangerous than the mortal world. Life and death could be decided with a single thought. In Sumo's heart, there were still too many good intentions. Fortunately, Sumo was on guard. As soon as the flying sword came out, Sumo had already moved. Her body bounced back at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, Sumo patted her storage bag, and a flying sword directly met the sword light that was flying towards her. Clang! The two flying swords collided and actually fell to the ground at the same time. However, the opponent's flying sword was like a poisonous snake. It just landed on the ground and then raised its head again. Whoosh, then it went straight for Sumo. Hee. So it's a level 4 Chi refinement? An expert could tell with a stretch of his hand. The level 5 Chi refinement cultivator, who was controlling the flying sword, had already determined Sumo's cultivation level through the way he controlled the flying sword. She was a level higher than him, and there were 3 people on his side. What did the level 5 Chi refinement cultivator from the Slekton sect have to worry about? In terms of the Tao of flying swords, he was far above Sumo. Sumo's flying sword landed on the ground, and she secretly made a hand seal. However, the flying sword was like a dead fish, and didn't react at all. After all, Sumo had no combat experience, and in a panic, she naturally couldn't do what she wanted. Fortunately, Sumo's mind moved, and the broken bamboo pole directly flew out. Whoosh! The bamboo pole was like a dragon, and a green light spread out. Clang! The bamboo pole was far stronger than the flying sword, and with a single move, it sent the level 5 Chi refinement cultivator's flying sword flying. Oh! The 3 level 5 Chi refinement cultivators were all stunned. Her cultivation was 1 level lower, but she could actually send the opponent's flying sword flying. This could only mean one thing: the bamboo pole in Sumo's hand was definitely a high-level magic treasure. On the Bone mainland, magic treasures were also divided according to the cultivator's level. The significance of a magic treasure to a cultivator was self-evident. Could that bamboo pole be a Foundation establishment level magic treasure? Therefore, the eyes of the 3 cultivators instantly lit up. They didn't expect that this inconspicuous little beggar would actually have something good on her. Whoosh! In an instant, the 3 cultivators stood in a triangular position, completely surrounding Sumo, and blocking her way out. Sumo didn't know that these 3 bone cultivators often worked together to hunt beasts. At this moment, they regarded Sumo as a spirit beast, and were completely serious. Whoosh! Another cultivator's flying sword flew over. Sumo wanted to send it flying again. However, that cultivator's flying sword seemed to have eyes, and it didn't even touch the broken bamboo pole. However, because of the bamboo pole's protection, the flying sword also couldn't get close to Sumo's body. Even so, Sumo was tired of dealing with it. This was because the 2 flying swords had flown back at the same time. The 3rd cultivator hadn't taken out his silver net yet, or else Sumo would definitely have a hard time dealing with it. Whoosh! Sumo controlled the broken bamboo pole, and the waves in his Dan sea tumbled. After all, this was his first time fighting an enemy. In theory, a cultivator's spirit chi was limited, and it would decrease as the battle progressed. Controlling the bamboo pole consumed his spirit chi. At first, Sumo felt that his spirit chi was being consumed, but suddenly, the trace of immortal chi that he cultivated dissipated slightly. The white light immortal root also shook slightly. Whoosh, in an instant, his Dan-si was full. Chapter 45. Eternal Chi, Eternal Dan-si. Although Sumo had only cultivated for a few days, the spiritual energy in the entire Dan-si had undergone a qualitative change due to the power of the spell. A trace of eternal chi would multiply endlessly. At this time, within Sumo's core si, the 4 water wheels were shining brilliantly, showing no signs of slowing down. Actually, it was mainly because Sumo's opponent was not of a high level. If it was a foundation establishment cultivator, Sumo would be suppressed. No matter how full the Dan-si was, it was useless because you had no chance at all. However, the opponent was only a level 5 chi refinement cultivator. Sumo relied on the broken bamboo pole to withstand 7 to 8 attacks from the 2 of them. One of the flying sword cultivators sneered. A mere level 4 chi refinement cultivator was still resisting? He flipped his hand and a red light flashed. That was exactly what Senior Brother Fan, who was at the 6th level of chi refining, had used to attack the little white pig. Actually, that fireball was similar to the Fire Revolution pill of the 5 wheels and was quite powerful. Wasn't it a coincidence? The cultivator took out a fireball and Sumo threw out a Fire Revolution pill at the same time. At the same time, Sumo took out a fire talisman. Whoosh! The fire talisman expanded in the wind and the sky was filled with flames, heading straight for the 3 cultivators. Within the flames, there was a Fire Revolution pill. Boom! Unexpectedly, the 2 fireballs collided. At this moment, it happened to be close to the skeletal cultivator. He never thought that the other party would have such a fireball as well. When the 2 fireballs exploded, the power of the explosion was enough to kill a level 4 or 5 chi refinement cultivator. Fortunately, it did not directly explode on the skeletal cultivator's body. Even so, the skeletal cultivator felt his eardrums buzzing and his vision was constantly double. For a moment, he could not stand steadily and even a trace of blood seeped out of his mouth and nose. Fire Revolution pill? He is a level 5 wheels cultivator. At this moment, the cultivator who had not made a move shouted. Then, he shook his hand and the silver net in his hand spread out, heading straight for Sumo. They would not let a level 5 wheels cultivator go. The skeletal cultivators and the level 5 wheels cultivators were rivals on the Bone mainland. Suemo also understood the situation he was in. He patted his storage pouch and took out a bunch of talismans. There were wind and fire spirit talismans as well. Wind and fire coexisted, and in an instant, the sky was filled with flames, covering a radius of more than 100 feet. At the same time, he threw out 2 Fire Revolution pills. That Fire Revolution pill was actually quite precious, but the current Sumo did not dare to be reluctant to part with it. It was more important to stay alive. There were 3 cultivators at the 5th level of Chi refining realm. Dang, with a thought, the bamboo pole once again deflected another flying sword attack. Whoosh, boom! Spirit talismans and Fire Revolution pills opened the way. The flying sword cultivator standing in front of the punishing heart cliff had no choice but to make way. Sumo seized the opportunity, the undying chi in her body started to circulate rapidly, and she dashed towards the punishing heart cliff. The distance between them was less than 100 feet. Whoosh, Sumo increased her speed to the maximum. However, the cultivator from the Slekton sect who used the silver net actually had a backup plan. Just as Sumo was about to rush out of the silver net's range, a portion of the talismans on the silver net suddenly glowed and turned into dozens of sword rays, heading straight for Sumo. Chi, The sound of the air being pierced was incessant. Each of them was a flying sword with a small amount of power. Sumo cursed inwardly with a thought. The broken bamboo pole turned into a circle, spinning like a windmill to protect her back. At the same time, an earth spirit talisman appeared, forming a shield. Actually, Sumo had already reached the limit of a 4th level of Chi refining realm. However, there were still 3 sword rays that pierced through Sumo's defense. Puff Chi. One sword ray hit her left shoulder. Another 2 sword rays, one cut her left arm, and the other stabbed her right leg. Hiss! Sumo grinned, and blood instantly stained the beggar's tattered clothes. Actually, his physical body was quite strong. However, although it could withstand the heavy blows of punches and kicks, it could not withstand the sharpness of the talismans and sword rays. Fortunately, once the sword rays entered his body, they could not go any further once they touched his bones. However, Sumo's body trembled in pain. In an instant, another cultivator's flying sword arrived. The pure flying sword was even stronger than the sword rays. Puff! This sword was solid. It hit Sumo's back. In fact, this sword could almost take Sumo's life. However, at the crucial moment, the flying sword deviated by an inch. Even so, Sumo's face instantly turned pale. Suemo could even feel that the flying sword had pierced into his bones. However, at this moment, the cultivator controlling the flying sword was shocked. This was because his flying sword should have pierced through Sumo's body and taken her life. However, when he tried his best, it was as if it had encountered a diamond and could not move at all. The 5th level of Chi refining realm cultivator frowned. Withdraw. The cultivator could only silently chant the incantation and withdraw the flying sword. Puff! Blood spurted 3 feet from Sumo's back. Sumo felt her vision darken, and she almost fainted. Only by holding on to her breath did she not fall. Hugh! The silver net fell, and it looked like Suemo was about to be captured. However, the cultivator controlling the silver net seemed to be in a daze, and the silver net seemed to be frozen in the air. At the same time, the other 2 cultivators also showed signs of absent-mindedness. In fact, it was only between breaths, so subtle that it was hard to detect. However, Sumo did not know about this. Hanging on to her last breath, she dashed towards the punishing heart cliff. Enduring the pain, not caring about the blood flowing, Sumo's face was pale, and she gritted her teeth as she dashed forward. Suddenly, she dashed for 4 to 5 feet, climbed up a stone wall, and finally reached the punishing heart cliff. Then, she fell into the punishing heart cliff. Hugh! At this moment, the silver net and the flying sword missed outside the punishing heart cliff. The 3 cultivators' faces were gloomy, and the cultivator who was hit by the fireballs was covered in dirt. They did not expect that the 3 of them, who were at the 5th stage of Chi training, would let a cultivator at the 4th stage of Chi training escape. Bad luck, one of the cultivators said. A 5th stage cultivator, There is only one way out of the punishing heart cliff. Let's see if he comes out or not. Right. As long as he comes out, we will use our methods and kill him first. Otherwise, we won't be able to gain anything from this experience. If Brother Fan dies, we won't be able to explain. We might as well push everyone to the 5 wheels and kill that little beggar. The 3 of them spoke one after another, and their tone was fierce. Finally, they came to an agreement. Thus, they waited outside the punishing heart cliff for Sumo. Let's not talk about them, let's talk about Sumo. Sumo was injured just now, and she lost a lot of blood. Then, she dashed forward and fell, and this time, she used up a lot of spiritual chi. Although the chi of immortality in her Dan Si was still running, it could no longer continue. Sumo, covered in blood, fell into the punishing heart cliff and fainted. The punishing heart cliff was split in the middle, and it looked like a sliver of sky, but the inside was much wider. Sumo was unconscious, and his body was covered in sword wounds, and he was bleeding non-stop. The other parts of his body were fine, but the flying sword wound on his back was still bleeding. At this time, a white figure jumped out from the punishing heart cliff. It was the soul-eater spiritual beast, Little White Pig. It was unknown what power it had, but the wound on the little white pig's back was completely healed. Humph, humph. Chapter 46. Humph. The little white pig circled around Sumo twice. It looked at Sumo, and then at the broken bamboo pole. It seemed that it understood that Sumo had saved it, and had probably seen the fight just now. However, the little white pig seemed to be hesitant, and it circled around Sumo twice. Finally, it seemed to have made up its mind. It snorted twice, and 2 puffs of white gas came out of its nostrils. The 2 puffs of white gas were very faint, but they lingered around all of Sumo's wounds. Soon, all of Sumo's wounds had stopped bleeding, and they even began to heal. Even the most serious wound on her back, caused by the flying sword, was no exception. However, Sumo's injuries were more serious, and she had not woken up yet. The little white pig turned around and left. Soon, it came back with a few herbs and chewed them in its mouth. It then tried its best to apply the herbs on Sumo's wounds. After spitting out the white gas and working for a while, the spirit beast, the little white pig, seemed to be quite tired. It couldn't even open its eyes, so it directly lay down beside Sumo. Not long after, he fell asleep with a hoo-hoo sound. There were still about 4 to 6 hours before daybreak. Outside the punishing heart cliff, the 3 white skeleton cultivators were still waiting with their teeth clenched. On the other hand, Sumo and the little white pig slept soundly until the sun was high up in the sky. Hiss! When Sumo woke up, he seemed to feel a dull pain in his body, especially the wound on his back. However, Sumo could feel that his dantian was full, and it was just a flesh wound. His wounds seemed to have healed. White skeleton cultivators. Just you wait. Sumo clenched his teeth and said angrily. He knew that if he did not run into the punishing heart cliff with all his might, he would have died. This enmity was set in stone. At this time, Sumo saw that she had applied some simple herbs to her wounds. She then looked at the little white pig who was still snoring loudly beside her. Sumo then understood. Most likely, she had rushed into the punishing heart cliff and fainted. In the end, it was the soul-devouring spirit beast, the little white pig, who saved him and applied medicine on him. At this moment, the little white pig was sleeping soundly. He looked charmingly naive and drooled at the corner of his mouth. However, he didn't look like he had last night, baring his fangs and trying to assassinate someone in the 6th level of chi refining. Sumo did not disturb the little fellow. Heart-piercing cliff? Sumo propped herself up on the bamboo pole, then stood up and looked around. From Sumo's angle, the punishing heart cliff looked like a huge heart-shaped valley. The entire valley was no less than 1,000 zhang in circumference. The vegetation was lush and vast. The crack at the top was more than 100 feet high, and light could be seen from it. Sumo had fallen through that crack in the sky. It was really lucky that he didn't fall to his death from such a height. 1,000 safflower? At this moment, Sumo suddenly remembered the reason why she came to the punishing heart cliff. She looked around. However, the punishing heart cliff was filled with vegetation and it was huge. For a moment, Sumo couldn't find it. Aha! At this moment, the little white pig suddenly woke up and stared at Sumo with its round eyes. Oh? You're awake? Sumo smiled. When the little white pig was not in a rage, it was cute and adorable. You're the one who treated my wounds, right? Sumo bent down and touched the little white pig's head. Aha! The little white pig agreed and did not dodge. Instead, it rubbed itself against Sumo's hand like a cute pet. The little white pig's fur was extremely smooth, just like a baby's skin. The wound from last night was completely gone. Sumo couldn't help but be amazed. What kind of spiritual beast is this? Sumo really didn't know it. However, this little white pig was definitely not an ordinary one. Sumo flipped his hand and the little white pig obediently jumped onto his palm. It was fleshy, but it didn't feel heavy. It was like a ball of cotton. That little guy was really a magical creature. Sumo waved his palm and smiled. You don't have a name, right? I'll call you Humph. From now on, you'll follow me. I'll be your master. How about that? You'll have food and drinks. Humph. The little guy seemed to like the name that Sumo gave it and was willing to follow Sumo. It did a handstand on his palm and spun its body like a ball. Actually, the little guy was moved by the food and drinks. Sumo was quite happy. He had to show it something. He patted his storage bag and took out a few jade fairy sprouts. Jade fairy sprouts were inferior grade spiritual stones. Sumo basically didn't have any spiritual food in his storage bag. However, that little guy actually sniffed and then snorted with a disdainful expression. Huh! Sumo was a little embarrassed. Obviously, that little guy had a very high taste and didn't like the jade fairy sprouts at all. However, Sumo's storage bag didn't have any higher grade spiritual food. Because he had used all the food for himself. That was too embarrassing. He didn't even have food to eat when he followed him around? He wasn't a loyal master at all. Sumo scratched his head. The little white pig looked at Sumo eagerly. Suddenly, it carefully looked at Sumo and seemed to understand something. It lay listlessly on Sumo's hand. Huh! Sumo was even more embarrassed, because he felt that the little guy understood that its master was a beggar and had nothing. What food and drink would there be? Seeing that, Sumo quickly rummaged through his storage bag again. However, there was indeed no spiritual food. However, Sumo flipped his hand and took out a level 4 chi refinement pill. That was definitely a good thing. Sumo's chi refinement pill was reserved for his own cultivation advancement. I wonder if this little guy will eat it? Sumo muttered in his heart. Actually, he was a little reluctant, but he was hoping that this thing would snort and not eat it. Then he would save some face. It's not that I don't want to give it to you, it's that you don't want to eat it, right? Humph! Sumo snorted. At this moment, the little white pig was so bored that it seemed to want to close its eyes. It was probably thinking that its master was too lousy. Humph! The little white pig was listless at first, but when it saw the level 4 chi refinement pill that Sumo handed to it, it couldn't help but roll. Humph, humph, humph. With a sniff, the little white pig's eyes lit up. It smells so good. Humph. Little white pig air snorted and didn't say anything. He directly swallowed the pill and chewed it noisily. Huh! Sumo grinned and said in his heart, this guy really knows what's good for him. Chi refinement pill. That's something that a level 4 chi refinement cultivator eat. However, in the blink of an eye, the little white pig finished it, and then looked up at Sumo eagerly. Do you want more? Sumo asked. Humph humph. The little white pig nodded vigorously. Give it to me. Sumo couldn't be too stingy. After hesitating for a while, he took out another pill from his storage bag. Humph humph, eat slowly, Sumo said. But before he finished speaking, the little white pig had already swallowed the medicinal pill into its mouth and munched on it with relish. It made Sumo want to take a pill. Soon, the little guy raised his head and looked at Sumo. This? Sumo was embarrassed again. Humph humph, this is not a candy. If you eat too much, you'll get a stomachache. Bah! What's stomachache? Eating immortal pills, stomachache. Sumo was lying through his teeth to deceive the piglet. Humph humph. The little guy didn't know if he didn't understand, or if he pretended not to understand, but he just looked up at Sumo and snorted. Ai. This is the last one. Sumo shook his head. I don't have many left. Let me tell you, humph humph. This is a level 4 chi refinement pill. Only level 4 chi refinement cultivators can eat it. Since you ate my food, you'll have to be obedient in the future, Sumo dawdled, and took out the third level 4 chi refinement pill. At this time, she could really see that he was a beggar. She really couldn't bear to. Chapter 47. Sumo only had 10 LV4 chi refining dawn left. He had planned to use them when he reached the LV5 chi refining realm. However, the little white pig ate 3 of them in a row. Sumo was speechless. What troubled Sumo the most was that the little guy was not satisfied after eating 3. It hummed and groaned, then with tears in its eyes, it tried to act cute and pitiful. It stood upside down and shook its butt pitifully, but it still wanted to eat more. Was he really a pig? Foodie. Sumo sighed in his heart, but he had no choice but to give 2 more to the little white pig. The little white pig's eyes were as bright as stars, and it ate happily. Sumo's heart ached for it. Then, no matter how the little white pig acted coquettishly, did somersaults, and shook its butt, Sumo looked at it with disdain. In the end, the little white pig felt that it had gone too far, so it snuggled into Sumo's arms. It was hard to tell how it could snuggle into Sumo's arms with its fat body, and no one could see it. Alas! Sumo wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and muttered in his heart, "It seems that it is not easy to keep a pet. This meal has consumed half of my chi refining dawn. As for the remaining 5, it seems that I should eat them earlier. Otherwise, there may not be a single one left." Sumo pondered as he searched in the abyss of Heart Cliff. The 1,000 safflower was 3 feet tall, with a straight, brown stem. It was round and had vertical ridges, and its upper part was slightly branched. Its leaves were green, and its leaves were green. Its flowers bloomed for 1,000 days, so it was called the 1,000 safflower. The whole plant could be used to quench poison and purify elixirs, so it was the first choice for alchemists. The characteristics of the 1,000 safflower flashed through Sumo's mind, and he kept searching. However, after more than 2 hours, he had searched the whole valley, but he did not see a single 1,000 safflower. Where is the 1,000 safflower? Could it be that the mission is fake? Sumo was suspicious. Humph! Sumo suddenly thought of the little white pig. She patted her chest lightly and called out the little white pig. Aha! That little fellow seemed to have fallen asleep again just now, and came out with sleepy eyes. Humph! Do you know if there is a 1,000 safflower here? It is a kind of safflower? Sumo said. In fact, he wasn't sure if the little fellow could understand him. After all, he really did not know where the little white pig came from. Humph humph. The little guy tilted its head and seemed to ponder for a while. It was unknown if it really understood. Then, it jumped onto the ground and jumped forward. Then, it retreated and looked at Sumo. You want me to follow your footsteps? Sumo asked. Humph. The little white pig nodded cutely. All right. Sumo nodded. Humph humph. The little white pig turned around and its chubby body leaped 10 feet away. Although Sumo was injured, it wasn't a big problem at such a distance, so he directly followed. The little white pig kept humming as it leaped. The furthest it leaped was 10 feet and the nearer it was 3 feet. In the punishing Heart Cliff, the little white pig moved slowly in order to take care of Sumo. However, it was still dazzling. To Sumo, the little white pig's footwork was untraceable, but it was also very mysterious. It was not jumping blindly. It seemed to be a mysterious footwork, or a way to enter a formation. Sumo secretly noted it down. Whoosh! After a total of 49 steps, the little white pig finally landed on the ground. Sumo landed on the ground immediately. The moment she landed, Sumo's expression changed. She could not help but feel shocked. Because the cliff of exterminating heart had changed a long time ago. Everything from before was gone. Where's the sky? Where's the vegetation? As far as the eye could see, the scenery had changed. It was a completely different world. Everything that happened just now had disappeared. At this moment, Sumo seemed to be in a huge cave. The surrounding walls were all red. They were abnormally smooth and even emitted a faint red light. The red light was gentle and not glaring. About 10 feet away there was a 10 feet high platform with white jade step. On both sides of the platform there were many red lights. Sumo checked. There were a total of 49 red lights on both sides of the wall. She did not know what was burning on those lights. They were burning continuously. Only the red light could be seen, but there was no smoke. The blood-red light was shining. It was strange and poignant. Humph humph. The little white pig seemed to have quietened down. It slowly walked in front, no longer jumping. Its expression seemed to be a little sad. Sumo slowly followed the little white pig forward. Step by step, they got closer to the platform. There were also 49 steps, emitting a warm air. What was this place? Stepping onto the platform, Sumo's expression suddenly changed. Because, on the platform, there was a 10-feet-long black stone table. A large green urn was placed on top of it. The urn was 4 feet tall. The thickest part was 3 feet in diameter. The urn emitted a faint green light. There were no special patterns on it. The urn's mouth was sealed with a red veil. The top was sealed with red mud. Light flowed. Many tadpole-like words flowed like water. Seal? Sumo thought to himself. Although his cultivation level was not high, he had heard of the seals of immortal cultivators. What was sealed in this urn? Sumo did not dare to act rashly. He looked at the long black table. The black light was shining. It looked like black jade. The material seemed to be the same as the stone in Silent Death Valley. However, this black stone seemed to have more vitality than the black stones in Silent Death Valley. However, on the table, there seemed to be someone writing 4 sentences with a red pen. Immortal, immortal bone, immortal soul, immortal reincarnation, immortal heart. There is no limit in the heavens, only a monarch in the world of mortals. Those big words were quite imposing, and even had a faint murderous intent. Every word had the power to penetrate the stone table by 30%. However, they were definitely not carved. They were written with a red pen. However, Sumo still felt that it was the work of a woman, because, between the lines, there was a trace of sadness that could not be erased. Domineering, decisive, and sad. Those 4 sentences gave Sumo an indescribable feeling. Sumo silently read it 2 more times. He sighed in his heart. At this time, Sumo raised his head. He suddenly discovered that on the wall above the stone table, there were 3 large black words written like a divine pen: Soul Storage Altar. Those 3 words were about 10 feet in size. Every word was written with a strong and clear tone. These 3 words and the words on the black stone table were definitely not the work of the same person. Sumo frowned. He could not understand at all. Could this not be an immortal's cave? At this time, Sumo suddenly felt a trace of warmth in his storage pouch. With a thought, Sumo gently patted the storage pouch. Whoosh, whoosh, a white light, the red dust ancient fan flew out. Then, with a whoosh, it opened. With a faint light, the ancient fan flew around the soul storage altar and steadily fell into Sumo's hand. On the ancient fan, the red jade pendant faintly shone. Mortal. The 2 ancient characters appeared again. The green urn also shone faintly. Sumo frowned. He could not help but recite the 4 sentences. Immortal, immortal bone, immortal soul, immortal reincarnation, immortal heart. There is no limit in the heavens, only a monarch in the world of mortals. Chapter 48. The Mysterious Immortal's Cave, the Puzzling Soul-Storing Altar. Sumo did not know what was sealed in the soul-storing altar. He stared blankly at the ancient mortal fan in his hand. Naturally, he did not know if they had any origin. However, he felt a touch of warmth from the ancient mortal fan. Unfortunately, he did not dare to act rashly in front of him. Otherwise, he would not know what would happen. After all, his cultivation was too low. While Sumo was thinking, the little white pig began to whimper, as if it was crying. Only then did Sumo discover that there was a huge beast bone at the back of the high platform. The beast bone was extremely well preserved. When the spirit beast was alive, if it stood up, it would be more than 10 feet tall. Fangs, wings, and a huge tail. Although it was a skeleton, one could see the power of its life from the skeleton. Such a huge beast, Sumo did not dare to imagine. Whimper. The little white pig lay down next to the beast bone and seemed to be weeping pitifully. Sumo understood that this little white pig must be the descendant of this strange beast. However, wasn't the gap too big? Because the little white pig was too small. Could it be a genetic mutation? Sumo looked at the skeleton and pondered. At the same time, if she looked at the remaining skeleton, this strange beast should have been dead for at least 100 years. But why was the little white pig so small? Perhaps the little white pig grew slowly, but wasn't the growth cycle too long? Was it because the nutrition couldn't keep up? Alas! Sumo looked at the little white pig and pretended to be pitiful. No wonder eating the elixir was like eating jelly beans. Then, Sumo bent down and touched the little white pig to comfort it. Humph! The little white pig looked at Sumo with tears in its eyes, as if someone finally understood its pain. Sumo recalled how the skeleton monk chased it last night. She guessed that the little white pig must have suffered a lot after the death of the adult strange beast. Don't worry. In the future, I'll make sure you get fat. Suemo patted the little white pig's butt. Actually, that little fellow was definitely not thin. On the contrary, he was as fat as a ball and couldn't get any fatter. Humph! The little white pig nodded with tears in his eyes, but he didn't grieve for too long. Afterwards, he brought Sumo to the huge exotic beast's skull. The plump little white pig actually jumped into the huge exotic beast's skull. The skull was about 3 to 4 feet square, and it looked like a medium-sized nest. From the looks of it, the little white pig usually lived there. This was because there were many special immortal herbs, most of which were made by the little white pig himself. Humph! Before Sumo could react, the little white pig had already jumped out again. However, it held an ancient book in its mouth and handed it to Sumo. Huh! Sumo was stunned and took the little white pig's ancient book. The ancient book was not thick. Sumo gently flipped it. Including the front and back covers, there were actually only 9 pages. However, other than the front and back covers, there was not a single word. Dust Sieve Sutra. Those were the 3 words on the cover. They were very simple and unadorned. Dracophant Soul Devouring Beast. Those were the 5 words on the back cover. They also had an air of vicissitude. However, there was not a single word on every page. Sumo couldn't help but grimace. Was this a wordless heavenly book? Was the Dust Sieve Sutra some kind of peerless cultivation technique? The Dracophant Soul-Devouring Beast was most likely the little white pig's. However, of course, Sumo had never heard of this name. However, Sumo understood that this ancient book must be a treasure. Otherwise, the intelligent little white pig would not have deliberately brought it to her. It was just that it was difficult for her to pry into its mysteries at the moment. At the same time, Sumo touched the material of the ancient book. It was actually the same material as the red dust fan. It was neither light nor heavy. It was not bamboo, nor gold or jade, nor paper or brocade. Frowning, she still could not see through it. Sumo put the ancient book into her storage pouch. She would slowly study it later. Is there 1,000 safflower here? Sumo asked. After all, this was his main purpose. Humph! The little white pig nodded and continued to lead Sumo forward. After passing through a section of the road, it suddenly became clear. The little white pig actually brought Sumo out of the cave and into a small valley. However, this was not the original punishing heart cliff. As soon as Sumo entered the valley, she was slightly stunned. Because this valley was extremely barren and decayed. It was only a few dozen feet in radius, but it was obvious that someone had carefully taken care of it. Stone tables, stone benches, old houses, and ancient wells. It seemed that this place used to be a flower garden in a medicinal valley. However, most of them had withered. Those fairy flowers and spiritual herbs seemed to have withered at the same time, completely without spiritual energy. However, they completely retained their original appearance. Most of the plants were grayish-brown and had no luster. Sumo frowned. In such a large flower garden, more than 90% of the plants were all like this. The whole valley was filled with the smell of death. Time seemed to stand still for a moment. And in a corner, there really were more than a dozen safflower. 1,000 safflower? Sumo was delighted. Yes, that was indeed 1,000 safflower. However, they grew on the edge of the flower garden. It seemed that they were not planted, but wild. Although the 1,000 safflower was a first-class medicinal herb for cleansing pills, it seemed that it was not popular in this valley at all. Sumo did not think too much about it and first went to the 1,000 safflower. There were a total of 13, and he collected all of them. At the same time, at the edge of the valley, he also found 4 or 5 kinds of wild spiritual food. Those were all spiritual food recorded in the Chaos Pill chapter. In fact, it was even more than the purple auspicious root and lilac fruit that he had bought before. There were more than a dozen of each. Those things might not be popular in this valley, but for Sumo they were all treasures. Those were all middle-grade spiritual food. With them, Sumo would probably have no problem breaking through to the 6th level of chi refining. Humph! Seeing that Sumo had collected all the things, the little white pig could not help but stare at her eagerly. Ahem! Don't worry. Humph! Sumo understood what the little white pig meant and immediately waved his hand. I guess you are also tired of these things. Wait a moment, I will make juice for you. It will definitely taste better than the chi refining pill you just ate. Sumo wasn't boasting when he said that. The spiritual food strengthened by the copper bowl really tasted better than the chi refining pill. Humph! Hearing this, the little white pig instantly jumped in joy. He suddenly stood upside down, his ball-like body effortlessly. Humph! What other good things and places are there? Sumo asked. Unfortunately, Humph shook his head. Sumo did not have any regrets. People should not be too greedy. After all, his purpose of coming here was the 1,000 safflower. Now, not only did he get the 1,000 safflower, but he also got a lot of middle-grade spiritual food. Taking Humph, he got an unknown ancient book. Although he could not figure out the soul altar, Sumo's trip was definitely not in vain. Taking Humph with him, Sumo returned to the soul altar cave. Sumo decided to cultivate here and break through to the 5th level of chi refining first. It would be best if he could reach the 6th level before leaving this place. In his heart, he also understood that the cultivators of the Slekton sect might be waiting for him. And if Sumo wanted to go out, he would absolutely not let go of those cultivators who wanted to kill him. Chapter 49. The mysterious cave in the cliff of exterminating heart is absolutely safe. Sumo believes that other than herself and Hung, no one else can enter or exit. After all, the 49 steps are not ordinary footwork. Since she got the 1,000 red flower, Sumo decided to stay in the mysterious cave to cultivate. Otherwise, he won't be a match for the 3 cultivators. If he dies, it'll be over. Thus, Sumo sat cross-legged in the cave. The little white pig seemed to be tired and fell asleep next to Sumo. At this moment, Sumo secretly took out the remaining 5 LV4 chi refining pills. Then, he swallowed them all at once, as if afraid of being seen by the little white pig. Whoosh! Previously, Sumo had tried his best to control his cultivation level at the 4th LV of chi refining. Now that he had taken 5 LV of chi refining pills, it was as if he had thrown 5 waterfalls into his overflowing Dan Sea. Whoosh, boom! Sumo no longer suppressed his cultivation level. In an instant, his Dan Sea turned into a tsunami. Almost in an instant, the 5th round of water halo suddenly appeared in Sumo's Dan Sea. This time, it was not a faint watermark, but a clear round of water halo. The water halo emitted a faint white light. The 5th level of the Chi training realm, Undying Chi. Sumo activated the Undying chant, and traces of Undying Chi emerged from the white immortal root. The tsunami-like spiritual energy in his Dan-si was slowly being converted. 1 hour, 4 hours, 6 hours, 1 day, 2 days, Sumo was like a rock, unmoving. This time, it took him 5 days to break through and stabilize his Dan-si. When he opened his eyes, he felt that his body was quite light. Hung. At this time, the little white pig saw that Sumo finally woke up, but his face was gloomy and helpless. Rumble, rumble, it was the little guy's stomach. The little hum lay down in front of Sumo and purposely deflated his white stomach. He looked at Sumo with a pitiful look. His meaning was obvious. Cough, cough. Sumo was also a little embarrassed. She had been so engrossed in her cultivation that she had really forgotten about this little fellow. Actually, this little white pig was just acting cute. If it weren't for Sumo, it would have jumped out to look for food by itself. It was a fellow with a great background. It could even absorb the souls of cultivators, so how could it possibly starve? It was just that he had a mountain to back him up, so he was independent without a mountain. Moreover, that little fellow would be fine even if he were to starve for 5 months, let alone 5 days. Therefore, since he had a master, he had to rely on him. If he could save some trouble, he would. He would eat as much as he could. In the end, it was just a lazy glutton. Actually, Sumo also understood in her heart, but how could she bicker with that adorable little fellow? Besides, he had promised the little white pig that he would make juice for her. Therefore, Sumo took out a copper bowl from her storage bag and took out 2 yellow fruit. Those 2 fruits were plucked from the valley behind the cave a few days ago. They were called golden cloud fruit. They were mid-grade spiritual food like lilac fruit and purple auspicious root. However, when the little white pig saw that Sumo only took out 2 golden cloud fruits, there was a hint of disdain and disappointment in its eyes. It was probably tired of eating those fruit. Hee. Sumo snickered in her heart. In a while, I'll make you drool. He was quite confident in the effect of the copper bowl's blessing. Sumo placed the 2 golden cloud fruits into the copper bowl. At first, the little white pig did not understand what Sumo was doing. However, when the 2 golden cloud fruits entered the copper bowl, they vibrated slightly and suddenly turned into 4. The little white pig's eyes widened in an instant. It had never seen such a trick before. When it looked again, the copper bowl instantly emitted wisps of white mist. The little white pig's eyes instantly brightened, and it was instantly energized. Because, for a moment, the fragrance filled the air, and the spiritual sense assailed its nostrils. Was that still the fragrance of the golden cloud fruits? The little hum's fat body involuntarily moved closer, and its nose kept sniffing. Not long after, the copper bowl was filled with rich golden fruit juice. The little hum was extremely greedy, because it really smelled too good. It hummed and circled around Sumo, saliva dripping out of its mouth. Sumo chuckled, took out an ordinary wooden bowl from her storage, and then directly poured the whole bowl of fruit juice into it, and handed it to the little white pig. Humph! The little white pig did not make a second humph sound. It directly inserted its nose and mouth into the big porcelain bowl, and then began to eat and drink. There was no need to mention how fragrant it was. Sumo grinned as she watched. Foodie! Sumo took out another 2 golden cloud fruits and threw them into the copper bowl to divide and enhance. However, just as Sumo's bowl turned into fruit juice, the little white pig's bowl was finished, and then it raised its head and stared at Sumo. That small little eyes looked like a child waiting to drink milk. There was also a circle of yellow fruit juice around its mouth, and it was obvious that it had not eaten enough. Huh! Sumo held the copper bowl and looked at Humph's pleading eyes. She had no choice but to pour this bowl of fruit juice back to it. Humph! The little white pig dived in, wagged its little short tail, and began to eat. Sumo began to prepare the 3rd bowl. Simply put, she did this 5 times. The little white pig did not want it anymore, and then it snored away. Sumo wiped the sweat from his forehead. He had not even drunk a sip? What dragon elephant soul-eating beast? Don't tell me I've really raised a pig. This consumption is almost comparable to that of a cultivator of the same level as me. Sumo was thinking blindly, but when he saw the little white pig asleep, he felt very satisfied. He flicked the little white pig's butt and belly with his finger. It felt good, but the little guy did not respond at all. Sumo could not help but smile, and then he made himself another fruit juice. At this time, he had a lot of mid-grade spiritual food in his storage bag, and he was already a cultivator of the 5th level of chi refinement. So he made 5 bowls in one go. Then, Sumo continued to sit cross-legged in this cave abode, and did not stop cultivating. Once he started cultivating, Sumo would enter a state of obsession, or even obsession. 5 bowls of mid-grade fruit juice was almost as effective as 5 pills of the 4th level of chi refinement, and it was even more beneficial to Sumo's cultivation. Moreover, for some reason, while cultivating in this cave abode, Sumo felt that his art of immortality was progressing rapidly. It seemed like he had the geographical advantage here. Actually, he did not notice that when he was cultivating, the big urn on the soul storage altar on his back was emitting wisps of white gas. The white gas was very faint, and it first spread throughout the cave abode, and then was absorbed by Sumo. Sumo did not know any of this. He only felt that his Dan-si was full. The chi of immortality grew endlessly, and the 5th water halo was constantly filling and shining. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this time, Sumo and the little white pig shared another 10 bowls of mid-grade spiritual food. The spiritual food that Sumo collected in the Flower Valley had been consumed by half. However, Sumo's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. The speed of cultivating here was several times faster than the speed of 5 wheels. He was close to the peak of the 5th level of chi refinement. His chi of immortality was also slightly successful, and he had even completed the first minor level of the chi of immortality. He could soon cultivate the art of immortality, skeleton technique. Chapter 50. The skeleton technique was a way to control immortal bones in battle, similar to the imperial sword technique. However, when this technique was practiced to a high level, it seemed that one could control many immortal skeletons and possess great combat power. However, Sumo was curious. Where would there be so many immortal skeletons? There was a strange beast skeleton in this cave, but Sumo didn't dare to touch it. Silent Death Valley. The scene of his last transmigration flashed through Sumo's mind. There were many immortal skeletons in Silent Death Valley. However, it was a place that even Mu Jinghong didn't dare to set foot in. A forbidden area for cultivators. Even though he had come from there, Sumo didn't dare to think about it. Controlling those immortal skeletons? He should take care of everything in front of him first. Level 6 of Chi Refinement. This was Sumo's goal. That way, he could boldly leave this cave. Even if he met the 3 cultivators from the Slekton sect outside Punishing Heart Cliff, he wouldn't be afraid. Continue cultivating. Another month passed in the blink of an eye. During this time, Sumo had almost finished all the spiritual food in his storage bag along with the little white pig. It was easy to come by and easy to finish. However, no matter how strong Sumo's cultivation level was, the power of the copper bowl was truly incredible. Sumo wondered if he should evolve the copper bowl further. After all, he still had mid-grade spirit stones in reserve. He would think about it after returning to 5 wheels. On this day, Sumo's Dan-si was originally calm. However, a huge wave was suddenly set off. The 5 white water wheels shone at the same time, radiance erupting. Rumble. The white light immortal root in Sumo's Dan-si shook slightly. The unwithering chi surged up like the bottom of the sea. The 6th water halo appeared on the Dan-si. Whoosh! Sumo's core si continued to expand, and at the same time, it surged without end. Level 6 of Chi Refinement. Sumo went up another level. At this time, it had been less than a year since he got on 5 wheels. Reaching the 6th level of chi refinement in 1 year was the limit that many cultivators could achieve in a decade, or even a lifetime. Sumo slowly opened her eyes, and a light flickered in them. Reaching the LV6 chi refining realm made him feel like his whole body was different. Actually, this was more of a feeling in his heart. For the cultivation world, a cultivator at the 6th stage of chi refining is still an ant, but for Sumo it is a big step. Because he only needed one more step and he would reach the 7th level of the chi training realm. As for the 7th stage of the chi refining realm, one could become an inner disciple of the 5 wheels. At this moment, his realm was almost equivalent to Zhao Yunxing's realm. Back then, in Sumo's eyes, Zhao Yunxing was someone she could never hope to catch up to. But now, it wouldn't be long before they would meet in the inner sect. The inner sect and the outer sect were like 2 different worlds. Sumo understood this point very well. He even felt that only by entering the inner sect of the 5 wheels could he understand many things. Only then could he be considered to have a glimpse of the door of cultivation. At this moment, Little Hum also stood up next to him. This little fellow had been accompanying Sumo for a whole month and a half. Of course, it only ate and slept and ate. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but Sumo felt that Humph seemed to have gained weight. At this moment, the little white pig looked at Sumo, as if it was carefully sizing up Sumo. It seemed that it could also see that Sumo's cultivation had improved. As expected of my master. This way, I still have a future. That was probably what the little white pig was thinking. Humph. Let's leave this place. Sumo glanced at the blood-red cave again. In fact, it was not bad to cultivate here, especially the speed of cultivation. However, Sumo was after all a disciple of the 5th wheel. At the moment, he couldn't stay in this nameless cave for too long, especially since he couldn't figure out the soul storage altar. It was mysterious and strange, which always made Sumo feel uneasy. Therefore, he must leave when he reached the 6th level of chi refinement. At most, he would come back later. Sumo understood that if it wasn't for the little white pig, no one would be able to enter this place. Therefore, he wasn't worried that others would come in. It was said that a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. Sumo could be considered to have left a safe place for himself. Humph! The little white pig seemed to understand Sumo's thoughts and nodded at Sumo. Then, it led the way in front, jumping 5 to 6 feet. It was exactly the same footwork, just that it walked backward. It was still the same 49 step. Sumo was already at the 6th level of chi refinement, and the injuries on his body were not the slightest bit. Therefore, not only could he keep up with the footwork, but he could also remember every step. The footwork crisscrossed and seemed to be chaotic. However, Sumo understood that every step of this set of footwork contained a mystery. It was just that he couldn't completely understand it. However, this time was different from when he came in. Every time Sumo took a step, he could vaguely see the scenery change instantaneously. In other words, all the changes were not on the last step, but every step actually changed time and space. Gradual change, followed by sudden change. However, Sumo's vision was extremely blurry, and his perception was also very weak. However, compared to before, it was obviously different. The 6th level of chi refinement and the 4th level of chi refinement were 2 small levels apart. Whoosh! At the last step, the scenery in front of Sumo suddenly changed. Actually, it was only at the last step that Sumo stopped. Then, he saw the punishing heart cliff. Looking up, it was indeed a line of sky. Whoosh! Sumo let out a long sigh. The soul storage altar was not bad, but it gave Sumo an indescribable feeling. Therefore, he felt like he could see the light of day again. Humph! Inside the punishing heart cliff, the little white pig was also very lively. It bounced around, rolling around like a snowball. This 1.5 months had been suffocating for it. But at this moment, Sumo looked down and suddenly found a black jade scroll in the depths of the grass. The design of the jade scroll was exactly the same as the jade scroll that he received for the mission. Sumo picked up the jade scroll and couldn't help but frown. Using his divine sense, he found that the jade scroll was empty. Everything on it had already been erased. However, there was no doubt that it was the jade scroll of the 5 wheels, because there was a unique pattern of the 5 wheels on it. Inside the punishing heart cliff, there was a 5th wheel cultivator? Looking at the appearance of the jade scroll, it should be quite old. The black jade scroll and the 5 wheels seemed to be a little special. Sumo kept the jade scroll in his storage pouch. Inadvertently, he looked into the distance. In the crack of the sky, there was a yellow cauldron. Sumo was slightly stunned, because he was sure that when he entered the punishing heart cliff, this yellow cauldron was definitely not there. Also, this yellow cauldron reminded Sumo of the soul-storing altar. Although the ancient cauldron altar was only a foot tall, much smaller than the soul-storing altar, and did not have any flowing light. But naturally, Sumo thought that there might be some connection between the two. At this moment, the little white pig Hung also saw the yellow cauldron. Hung! At that moment the little white pig's eyes glowed fiercely and its mouth cracked open, revealing its fangs. Hung! Afraid that Hung would be in danger, Sumo quickly called out to it. And at this time, the yellow ancient jar that was originally suspended in the sky suddenly fell down. Bang! The ancient cauldron fell and shattered. Whoosh! The grayish-white stuff scattered in all directions like ashes. Sumo looked at it blankly. In fact, the moment the yellow cauldron fell, he saw that there were 2 vermilion words on the cauldron. Earth wheel. Ashes flying? Are those the ashes of mortals? But that was almost impossible. How could mortal ashes be suspended in the punishing heart cliff? And it was impossible for a true cultivator to hide bone ashes. Then what was going on? Sumo was confused. At the same time, 100,000 miles away, in a dark and damp cave in the 5-wheel sect, an old man with a pale face suddenly opened his eyes. Who broke my 5-wheel great array? On the other side, in a cave within the Slekton sect, a cultivator sat cross-legged. His appearance could be said to be half human and half ghost. It was because he was actually half a body while the other half was a skeleton. Ha ha ha. Chapter 51. The yellow ancient altar fell to the ground and shattered. The grayish-white powder scattered in all directions. There seemed to be some changes in the punishing heart cliff. The little white pig saw this and his fangs gradually disappeared. Sumo flew to the side of the yellow ancient altar. Humph! The little white pig raised his nose and took a deep breath. Looking at the air, there were traces of soul energy forming, but they were sucked by the little white pig. At this moment, Sumo felt a trace of extremely weak soul energy. Actually, if the little white pig was not able to gather the soul energy, Sumo would not be able to feel the existence of the soul energy. That was definitely not the ashes of a mortal. Even though the soul energy was weak, it was definitely not something a mortal could have. It was definitely the soul energy of a cultivator. Moreover, it was definitely a trace of remnant soul energy. The majority of the soul energy had disappeared. Soul storage altar? Earth wheel altar? Sumo was sure that there was definitely an unknown secret in the punishing heart cliff. Moreover, from Hump's performance just now, the yellow altar with the words Earth wheel on it was definitely hated by the little white pig. Sumo looked at the scattered ashes again. Sumo used his hand to pick up a little and pinched it with his fingers. It was indeed bone ash. However, it was like a fine powder. It was extremely fine, as if it had been ground. This was ground from immortal bones. It was definitely not an ordinary bone ash. This should be some kind of special spell technique. At the same time, Sumo found a brownish-yellow bead in the altar. There were strange runes on it. Sumo raised his eyebrows. He still had time to take a closer look. This was the moment. Whoosh, a cold arrow was shot towards Sumo. That arrow was actually a white bone arrow. Sumo was shocked. Sumo threw the bead into his storage bag and leaped. The white bone arrow flew past his armpit. Boom! The arrow hit a huge boulder within the punishing heart cliff. In an instant, the boulder collapsed like rain, and the white bone arrow disappeared. If this was before Sumo entered the punishing heart cliff, this arrow would have definitely pierced through Sumo. Such a powerful arrow! That arrow actually came from outside the punishing heart cliff. How did it penetrate through the stone walls of the punishing heart cliff, and how did it find Sumo? Who? Sumo's face turned cold. At the same time, Sumo dashed out of the punishing heart cliff. Reaching the LV6 Chi refining realm had boosted his courage. Bone arrow? Could it be a white bone cultivator? It had been more than 2 months. Could it be that the 3 skeletal cultivators were still here? Sure enough, the moment Sumo exited the punishing heart cliff, a large silver net descended from the sky. He really doesn't give up, Sumo thought to herself, because Sumo recognized the silver net. It was the big net from that day. Little beggar. The cultivator with the silver net let out a roar. They actually waited for 2 months. How stubborn. Actually, it was related to their hunting of beasts in the past. Sometimes, in order to catch 1 or 2 beasts, they would hide for 2 to 3 months. Not everyone had this kind of patience. More importantly, they had a powerful helper. Actually, the white bone arrow just now was shot by a female cultivator in white. That female cultivator wore a white dress and held a white bone bow in her hand. Her figure was graceful and her face was filled with murderous intent. Complete LV9 Chi refining realm. At this moment, she was standing on a boulder not far away, quietly observing the situation. Because just now, the 3 juniors said that as long as the 5th level cultivator left the punishing heart cliff, she wouldn't need to do anything. They could definitely deal with the LV4 Chi refining realm cultivator. LV6 Chi refining realm. The moment Sumo rushed out, the female cultivator in white frowned. Because she was 3 levels higher than Sumo, she could tell Sumo's realm with one look. The information was wrong. However, before she could react, Sumo had already rushed out of the range of the silver net. At the same time, she shook her hand and a flying sword went straight for the silver net cultivator. Things were different now. Sumo's flying sword was swift and fierce, its speed extremely fast. The silver net cultivator would never have thought that in a short 2 months. The little beggar on 5 wheels actually had such combat power. However, the Slekton sect cultivator had a lot of combat experience. Seeing Sumo's flying sword, he couldn't help but withdraw the silver net. It had to be said that the silver net was a good treasure. However, in an instant, the silver net shone brightly, almost turning into a shield. Clang! Sumo's flying sword directly hit the silver net, causing sparks to fly. The silver net cultivator felt a strong force coming directly from the silver net. His body hurriedly retreated, trying to dispel that force. In fact, the silver net cultivator could still block this sword with his magic treasure. However, Sumo's backup was about to arrive. Because Sumo knew that although he was at the 6th level of the Chi refinement realm, however, facing 3 cultivators at the 5th level of the Chi refinement realm, he had to end the battle quickly. Otherwise, it would be easy to change the situation. Whoosh, a green light and the bamboo pole broke through the air. This speed was far faster than the flying sword. In fact, everything happened in an instant. The broken bamboo pole actually had a sense of arriving first. At the moment when the silver net cultivator retreated, Sumo's bamboo pole directly pierced his abdomen. Puff! The green light pierced through and blood flowed like a column. However, at the last moment, Sumo was moved by compassion. Therefore, this was only a serious injury. Otherwise, he could have pierced the silver net cultivator's heart like the little white pig. At this time, The flying swords of the other two cultivators at the 5th level of the Qi refinement realm had also arrived in front of Sumo. They also saw the change in Sumo. In just 2 months, this little beggar actually had such combat power. How did he do it? When the two flying swords came, one of the cultivators at the 5th level of the Qi refinement realm took out a flying bullet from the Slekton sect. Humph! Sumo snorted coldly. With a thought, the bamboo pole had already flown back. A higher level of the Qi refinement realm was indeed different. The two flying swords were no longer sharp in Sumo's eyes. The sense of crisis from 2 months ago was almost completely gone. Clank, clank. The broken bamboo pole danced left and right in the air. With an extremely fast speed, it hit the two flying swords and sent them flying. However, the power of the broken bamboo pole did not decrease at all. Pa! The broken bamboo pole once again flew towards the flying bullet. The flying bullet did not explode and was hit by the broken bamboo pole. Whoosh! The flying bullet was hit and went straight in the direction of the cultivator who threw it. Everything happened in an instant. The cultivator with white bones did not expect this. Last time, he was hit by the two colliding flying bullets and was already injured. Therefore, this time, he was more careful. However, the speed of the flying bullet was much faster than his dodging speed. The flying bullet flew back and hit the cultivator's chest. Boom! Ah! It suddenly exploded. A scream was heard. The Slekton sect's flying bullet was similar to the 5 wheels fire revolution pellet. Their power was about the same. A cultivator at the 5th level of the Qi refinement realm, unless he had a special physique, would not be able to withstand such a close-range flying bullet explosion. Suddenly, the cultivator with white bones was blown into pieces, flesh and blood splattered everywhere. His entire body was not left intact. Sumo couldn't help but frown when he saw it. Actually, his original intention was not to kill the cultivator with white bones. It was purely an accident. Although he hated the 3 cultivators with white bones, he felt that they did not deserve to die. Otherwise, he would not have left the cultivator with the silver net alive. At this moment, Sumo still did not have the heart to do it. His heart was filled with mercy. He did not understand the cruelty of treating his enemies. Chapter 52. Sumo was merciful, but the little white pig was not. Everything that happened just now was like a hare leaping and a falcon descending. The little white pig followed Sumo out of the punishing heart cliff. Before he could figure out what happened, Sumo had already dealt with the 2 skeleton cultivators. Luckily, there was still one left. The 3rd level 5 Qi refining cultivator was panicking. His expression changed. 2 months ago, the little beggar was running for his life. How could he be so powerful now? Within a breath, he defeated 2 of his senior brothers, killing one and injuring the other? The little white pig didn't care if his opponent was panicking or not. It seized the opportunity when the level 5 Qi refining cultivator wasn't paying attention. Suddenly, it attacked from the back. Sneak attack. The foot-long fangs looked like cold daggers under the sunlight. The little white pig was as fast as lightning. The last level 5 Qi refining cultivator didn't notice the little white pig coming from behind. Puff! The little white pig was much more ruthless than Sumo. It didn't care about morality. It only remembered that these 3 cultivators had tried to kill it before. It only knew that this cultivator was dealing with its master now. Clean and neat. 2 fangs pierced through the middle of its back and came out from the front. It was eerie. Then, the little white pig pulled out its fangs. Blood splattered 3 feet away. Humph! The little white pig growled. Its nose twitched. The body of the level 5 Qi refining cultivator started to wither rapidly. Soul devouring. Moreover, the little white pig's power seemed to have increased. It was even more powerful than when it absorbed the soul energy of the level 6 Qi refining cultivator that night. The white bone sect's 5th layer cultivator's vitality and soul energy had been completely absorbed by the little white pig. However, in an instant, he turned into a dried corpse. Sumo could not help being speechless as he watched. This little fellow was too ruthless. Of the 3 skeleton cultivators, 2 were dead and 1 was injured. The eyes of the skeletal female cultivator in the distance lit up and her killing intent spread out. This was something she absolutely did not want to happen. The 9th level of the Qi refining realm was only 1 step away from the Foundation establishment realm? How could he allow a man and a beast to be so arrogant? Evil creature! Madman! The white-robed woman shouted, and at the same time, pulled the bone bow in her hand. Pulling the bow to the fullest, a white bone arrow actually appeared. The white bone bow was called the white bone astounding bow. It was a nascent soul-level magic treasure of the Slekton sect. If it wasn't for the fact that the woman in white had a special identity, she wouldn't have been able to bring the divine bow with her. However, due to the limitations of her realm, the lady in white could not fully unleash the power of the divine bow. Otherwise, not to mention Sumo, even Mu Jinghong would probably be killed with a single arrow. However, she could only draw her bow 5 times a day. Earlier on, if it wasn't for the sake of forcing Sumo to leave the condemnation cliff, coupled with the pleading of her 3 junior brothers, she wouldn't have shot the arrow. At this moment, of the 3 junior brothers, 2 were dead and 1 was injured. The woman in white didn't hesitate to draw her bow. Whoosh! The woman in white drew her bow. First, she shot an arrow at Sumo, then another arrow at the little white pig. These 2 arrows were like lightning striking the sky. She was at the peak of the 9th level of Qi training, close to the foundational level, plus she had a nascent soul-level magic treasure. Any one of these arrows was enough to kill an early-stage foundational cultivator. This was completely different from when she shot Sumo across the executioner's cliff. It was like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. The woman in white from the Slekton sect had the ability to challenge those with higher cultivation levels. Her 2 arrows were meant to take the lives of Sumo and the little white pig. Whoosh, whoosh, the white bone arrow was like white lightning. Actually, Sumo was already paying attention to the woman in white. He remembered the arrow that shot into the condemnation cliff. Though Sumo couldn't tell the level of the woman in white, he could faintly sense how dangerous she was. The pressure from the 2 arrows made Sumo feel like he was suffocating. This was a type of suppression. Retreat. This was Sumo's instinctive reaction. The little white pig was even smarter. It actually ran in the direction of Sumo. As it ran, the white bone arrow followed it like a shadow, heading straight in Sumo's direction. What a pet! Sumo complained in his heart. At the same time, he patted his storage bag. 5 Earth Chakra talismans were thrown out. Earth Chakra talismans were defensive shields. Boom! The earth rumbled. In an instant, 5 stone-like shields were erected in front of Sumo and the little white pig. Each shield was more than a foot thick and more than 3 meters tall. The defensive techniques of the Earth Chakra lineage were known as the best among the 5 chakras. Ordinary Earth Chakra cultivators could rely on their absolute defense to fight against cultivators who were stronger than them. 1 Earth Chakra talisman could neutralize the attack of a Qi training level 5 or 6 cultivator. According to Sumo's expectations, 5 Earth Chakra talismans should be able to block the 2 bone arrows. At the very least, they should be able to reduce the damage. However, the result was out of Sumo's expectations. Poof, poof, poof. The 2 white bone arrows pierced through the 5 stone-like shields like tofu. Their speed didn't decrease at all. One was in front and the other was behind. The distance between them was less than 3 feet. This was a deadly arrow. Humph! The little white pig was so scared that he suddenly jumped onto Sumo's shoulder and plunged into Sumo's arms. He hid and completely disappeared. Sumo was speechless. She thought to herself, you attracted an arrow, but you are too irresponsible. The little white pig was definitely smarter than Sumo. He was ruthless. If he couldn't win, he would hide immediately. He didn't want to shoot his own butt. At this moment, Sumo had to face the 2 arrows alone. 2 arrows that could shoot down an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. The broken bamboo pole was still under Sumo's control. She could only give it a try. With a thought, the bamboo pole whipped towards the first arrow. Boom! No one expected that when the 2 objects collided, there would be a thunderous roar. There was a strong vibration and the sound waves rolled. However, this time, the broken bamboo pole didn't knock the white bone arrow away like it did with the flying immortal sword. Instead, the broken bamboo pole flew by itself, but the white bone arrow suddenly exploded. It wasn't that the broken bamboo pole wasn't powerful enough, but Sumo's level was too low. However, no matter what, one white bone arrow was neutralized. However, the second arrow arrived so quickly that Sumo didn't even have time to breathe. At this moment, his back was already soaked. When he was at the 4th stage of chi refining, he met 3 cultivators at the 5th stage of chi refining. When he was at the 6th stage of chi refining, he actually met such powerful opponents. What kind of fate was this? However, Sumo actually had a way to save his life, because he still had 2 life-saving jade slip. One of them was given to him by Su Yike. That jade slip contained Su Yike's talisman. Back then, Su Yike said that it could defend against an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator's attack. At this moment, Sumo already held the jade slip in his hand. As long as he crushed it, he could probably block the white bone arrow. However, Sumo still had a trace of hesitation. And this trace of hesitation made him temporarily keep the jade slip. At this moment, the white bone arrow was only 1 foot away from Sumo. In theory, Sumo was about to die under the arrow. Sumo's fingers should be exerting force to crush the jade slip. At this critical moment, a black shadow suddenly descended from the sky. It was a cultivator in black. He stood between the white bone arrow and Sumo and waved his long sleeve. Whoosh, bang. Chapter 53. The white bone arrow was extremely powerful, and it followed her like a shadow. Sumo almost lost her life. At the critical moment, the black-clothed cultivator actually scattered the white bone arrow with a wave of his sleeve. A foundation establishment cultivator? Sumo was in a trance. Junior brother Su quickly returned to the 5 wheels profound gate. The black-clothed cultivator shouted with his back facing Sumo. Junior brother Su? Sumo heard the cultivator's voice and found it somewhat familiar, but she couldn't remember where she had heard it before. Sumo's heart warmed up. To be able to call her junior brother Su, he was definitely a fellow disciple of the 5 wheels. To quickly return to the 5 wheels profound gate, it was naturally more important to escape. Looking at the posture just now, it should not be a problem for the black-clothed cultivator to block the white-clothed female cultivator. There was no point for him to stay here. Therefore, Sumo did not hesitate. Senior brother, be careful. Sumo patted her storage bag and directly took out the 5 flying sails, wanting to go straight in the direction of the 5 wheels profound gate. One must know that there was still a distance of 7,000 miles from the 5 wheels profound gate. However, Sumo had just taken out the 5 flying sails. Whoosh! Suddenly, a silver net actually went straight for Sumo. At this moment, Sumo was about to board the sail and was completely unprepared. The silver net just happened to cover Sumo. The silver net was extremely fast, and Sumo had almost no time and space to react. And the person who attacked was none other than the white-boned silver net cultivator that Sumo did not kill just now. At this moment, the silver net cultivator was covered in blood, but his face was ferocious. Close! The silver net cultivator shouted, and at the same time, the silver net shone brightly and quickly closed. Although the silver net cultivator was seriously injured, he gathered his remaining spirit energy and controlled the silver net. At the same time, his other hand had already stretched out an immortal sword. The silver net closed and pulled. The silver net cultivator's goal was very simple. He wanted to close the silver net in front of him and then use the impact force to stab Sumo to death. At this moment, he could no longer get up, and there was a large pool of blood under his body. Just now, Sumo's heart softened. Who would have thought that they would be ambushed? As for the silver net cultivators, they definitely wanted to kill Sumo. Enemies would never remember your kindness. Otherwise, they wouldn't be enemies. Sumo had never imagined that things would turn out like this. In fact, any cultivator would know that Sumo was being merciful just now. However, at this moment, the silver net retracted abnormally fast, the immortal sword flashed coldly. This output of spiritual power was tantamount to suicide for the heavily injured cultivator. However, even if he died, he would kill Sumo. In his eyes, there was already madness. At this moment, he was hanging on by a breath of spiritual energy. At that moment, Sumo's heart suddenly turned cold. In fact, Sumo's reaction time was really only a split second, not even half a breath. However, at that moment, Sumo actually mobilized herself in an instant. That was a kind of extreme. The unwithering chi suddenly exploded in the pill sea. A layer of white light suddenly appeared on Sumo's body. The silver net's momentum was slightly reduced. After all, Sumo was a realm higher. After all, the unwithering technique was a peerless cultivation method. This slight deceleration was enough. With a thought, Sumo's broken bamboo pole was already in her hand. The bamboo pole was nearly 7 feet long, and the silver net cultivator's sword was only 3 feet long. The silver net retracted and pulled Sumo, which was equivalent to the two people rushing toward each other. Sumo smiled coldly. The silver net cultivator instantly understood. With a shake of his hand, he was about to control the sword to attack. At the last moment, the silver net cultivator flew out the immortal sword, wanting to stab Sumo to death first. Unfortunately, he was at the end of his rope, and the immortal sword flew only 3 feet. He no longer had the strength to control the sword, but he did stab Sumo, and even the immortal heart. Sumo's chest was bleeding. However, the immortal sword only went in an inch. Sumo's immortal heart was not damaged. However, Sumo's bamboo pole directly stabbed between the silver net cultivator's eyebrows. Puff! It directly pierced through the silver net cultivator's head. Open, Sumo gritted her teeth, shook her hand, and the unwithering chi poured in. Pa! The silver net cultivator's head suddenly exploded. Like this, thousands of peach blossoms bloomed, splattering Sumo's brain and blood. However, Sumo only snorted coldly, his face expressionless. This was the first cultivator he had personally killed. Because Sumo finally understood that just now, his life and death were really in an instant. If he was even a millimeter slower, he would have already died. Then, with a wave of her hand, Sumo took the silver net and the storage bag of the silver net cultivator, directly jumped onto the 5 flying sails, turned into a stream of light, and flew away. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. The white-clothed woman and the black-clothed cultivator almost did not interfere. However, Sumo's ruthlessness just now had shaken the hearts of the two of them. This person, given time, would probably become a demon. Let's not talk about Sumo's escape. When the white-clothed woman came back to her senses, she saw that a black-clothed cultivator actually broke her white bone arrow light with a wave of his hand, and her expression changed. Because the black-clothed cultivator in front of her had actually used a spell to cover his face. A foundation establishment cultivator. The white-clothed woman raised her eyebrows. At the same time, she formed a seal with both hands, and spiritual light surrounded her. In the void, a white light directly struck the black-clothed cultivator. It was an authentic white bone spell. However, the power of this spell seemed to be completely incomparable to the white bone arrow. However, when the faint white lightning was 30 feet above the black-clothed cultivator's head, it instantly dispersed. Crack, crack, in an instant, it turned into a sea of lightning that was dozens of feet wide, containing hundreds of white bone immortal lightning bolts. At this moment, the entire void seemed to have changed color. Immortal lightning rumbled, as if the world had changed. However, the black-clothed cultivator actually did not move. "Thousand bone lightning see." The black-clothed cultivator sneered, "With your perfected cultivation of the 9th level of the Qi refinement realm, to be able to summon such a sea of lightning, you already have the combat power of a foundation establishment cultivator." As expected of the white bone demon. Hearing the black-clothed cultivator's words, the white-clothed woman's pupils shrank slightly. Then, she looked at the black-clothed cultivator pointing to the sky with one hand. The sleeve of his robe flashed slightly, and suddenly, a black light shot out from his index finger. Chi, boom! The black light was like a straight ink line, directly charging into the sea of lightning in the void. The sea of lightning shook violently, and then immediately, a black hole appeared where the black light struck. Chi, chi, chi! All the lightning gradually disappeared, as if they were swallowed by the black hole. The sea of lightning disappeared, and the black hole disappeared. Seeing this, the white-clothed woman actually did not attack again, and even lowered the white bone god's stunning bow in her hand. Actually, the white-clothed woman still had a rare treasure on her. However, she knew that all her attacks would be useless against the black-clothed cultivator. This was an absolute counter to white bone techniques, and it had nothing to do with their rank. The white-clothed woman looked at the black-clothed cultivator and asked, "Are you wearing the Ink Soul battle robe?" She stared at the black-clothed cultivator's black robe. At this time, if one looked carefully, they would see that the black-clothed cultivator was not wearing an ordinary cultivator's robe. The robe was covered with a black brilliance, and it was filled with spiritual energy. There were also faint runes flashing on it. "Ha ha!" The black-clothed cultivator sneered, "White bone demoness, you have good eyesight. Since you recognize the Ink Soul battle robe, you should know that all white bone techniques below the core formation realm are ineffective against you. So, why haven't you turned around?" The white-clothed woman heard that the black-clothed man did not deny that he was wearing the Ink Soul battle robe, but she did not seem to give up. "You know me? Whose sect are you? Whose Ink Soul Death Soldier are you?" The black-clothed cultivator sneered, as if he didn't want to tangle with the white-clothed woman. "Miss White, you're on your own. There is no need to ask. Today I will not kill you. But if you dare to take even half a step into the range of the 5 wheels, I will kill you without mercy." With that, the black-clothed cultivator raised his hand, and the black light shone again. Looking again, the corpses of the 3 Slekton sect cultivators, including the dried corpse, were all wrapped up by the black light. Whoosh! The black light turned, and the 3 corpses instantly turned into powder. Only 2 storage pouches fell into the hands of the black-clothed cultivator. Then, the black-clothed cultivator directly rode the wind, and rushed in the direction of the 5 wheels profound gate. Chapter 54. From the Punishing Heart Cliff to the 5 wheels profound gate, there was still a distance of 7,000 miles. At this moment, on the 5 wheels flying sail, Sumo was covered in blood. Part of it was the bone cultivator's blood, the other part was his own blood. Sumo sat cross-legged on the 5 wheels flying sail and did not immediately stop the bleeding. Because, he wanted to let himself remember this time. He was merciful, and in the end, he almost lost his life. That skeletal cultivator's final strike could be said to have narrowly escaped death, and it gave Sumo the most vivid lesson of all. Sumo needed to calm down and digest it. 7,000 miles, Sumo raised the 5 wheels flying sail to the limit. In the void, there was a stream of light, but it would still take 4 to 6 hours to reach the 5 wheels profound gate. Cultivation was so dangerous. This time, if it was not for that black-robed senior brother, he was afraid that he would not be able to return to the 5 wheels profound gate. And that black-robed senior brother, who was he? No matter how much Sumo thought, he could not figure it out. In the entire 5 wheels, the senior brothers who had a good relationship with him were Huang Zhe and Deng Feng. However, they had not returned to the mountain for a long time, and their cultivation was only at the 5th level of qi refinement. Secondly, even if it was Zhao Yunxing, it was also impossible. After thinking about it, there was no conclusion. Soon, 2 hours had passed. Sumo's 5 wheels flying sail had already flown out of the continuous gray mountain range, and was only about 4,000 miles away from the 5 wheels profound gate. Sumo's heart slightly calmed down. Because, in another 300 to 400 miles, it would no longer be the gray area of the 2 lineages, but the sphere of influence of the 5 wheels. For the first time, Sumo felt that the words 5 wheels were so warm. As long as he reached the immortal domain of the 5 wheels, he would feel safe. However, just as Sumo's heart slightly calmed down, from the left side of Sumo's flight path, a white light suddenly flew over. That white light, not only was it extremely fast, but it was also quite dazzling, almost causing Sumo to be unable to open his eyes. Not good. Just as Sumo was about to shout in his heart, boom! The white light hit the side of the 5-wheeled sail. The 5 wheels flying sails were the basic flying artifacts of the 5 wheels. They belonged to the Foundation establishment realm and were equipped with defensive formations. Otherwise, this collision would have destroyed Sumo's sail and killed her. That was a few thousand feet of void, and Sumo couldn't even ride the wind. Even so, Sumo's face turned pale. Looking at the 5 damaged sails, they directly tilted and began to fall. However, there were still sails, so they didn't completely fall. However, the wind was howling, and Sumo's storage bag no longer contained any flying artifacts. 3,000 zhang, 2,000 zhang, 1,000 zhang, even if she was in the 5th stage of qi refining, and her muscles and bones were much stronger than ordinary people, at this speed, Sumo would not be able to withstand it. Quick wits in the face of danger. Sumo patted her storage pouch and took out 5 wind talismans. He didn't have many wind talismans left. 5 wind spirit talismans appeared and turned into 5 whirlwinds that supported the 5 sails. Finally, this slowed down the speed of the 5 sails' descent. 1,000 zhang, 800 zhang, 600 zhang. The 5 sails swayed back and forth. The 5 wind spirit talismans couldn't support them for too long. When they were still 20 to 30 zhang away, their spiritual power had already disappeared. Fortunately, this height was already safe for Sumo. Sumo floated down, but the 5 sails crashed to the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. They were already out of the Ashen Mountain range, and next to a vast plain. Sumo instantly put away the 5 sails and looked at the white light that fell with the 5 sails not far away. It was a white flat stone the size of a millstone. The reflected sunlight was extremely dazzling. So powerful. Sumo looked around. Looking again, not far away there were 2 male cultivators. They were both wearing black robes, but they used a spell to cover their faces. One of them was of medium build, and the other was extremely fat. At this moment, the fat cultivator waved his hand, and the white flat stone the size of a millstone directly turned into a white light, turning into a 3-inch white stone, and fell into his palm. Sumo looked at everything in front of her and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. A white bone cultivator? The other party's pressure seemed to be at the Foundation establishment realm. Sumo felt her whole body tense up. She could only tightly grip the broken bamboo pole and force herself to calm down. After the fat cultivator in black shot down the 5 sails, he didn't immediately make a move. This was because Sumo was only at the 6th level of qi refinement. This kind of cultivation, in his opinion, could be destroyed with a wave of his hand. After all, he was at the peak of the 9th level of qi refinement, and the cultivator beside him was at the early stage of Foundation establishment. There was no hurry for a cat to catch a mouse. You brat, you're lucky. The fat cultivator took a few steps forward. Who are you? Sumo forced herself to calm down. Her hand was still clasping the jade slip that Su Yike had given her. This was Sumo's life-saving method. At this time, he was still 300 miles away from the sphere of influence of the five wheels. In fact, Sumo's biggest reliance was the black jade slip that Mu Jinghong gave her. This was because Mu Jinghong had said that at the critical moment, she could crush this jade slip. Mu Jinghong would definitely arrive at the territory of the five wheels immortal domain within 3 breaths. This time, Sumo might have to use that jade slip. However, Sumo hadn't reached the five wheels immortal domain yet. The last 300 miles. Could there be another black-robed senior brother? Sumo felt that the thought in her mind was funny. However, did that senior brother just now defeat the white-bone female cultivator and follow her here? Sumo wanted to delay for a little more time. Fellow Taoists, are you here for something? Sumo cupped her fists slightly. Haha. Who's your fellow Taoist? At this time, the tall cultivator in black said, You spoiled our plans and took our things. Now hand over your storage bag and kneel on the ground. We can leave your corpse intact. Sumo was stunned, but in her heart she thought, This time I got a lot of things from the punishing heart cliff. Which one is yours? And you want to leave my corpse intact? Even if my corpse is intact, I will still die. Moreover, how did I spoil your plans? May I know what the 2 Taoists want? The little beggar is willing to give it to you immediately. As for spoiling our plans, I'm afraid it was the little beggar's unintentional mistake. Sumo just wanted to delay for a little more time. Hey! The tall cultivator was about to reply. However, the middle-sized early-stage foundation establishment cultivator next to him interrupted him. Don't talk nonsense with him. He's most likely stalling for time. We are almost at the five wheels immortal domain. Just kill him and take the storage bag. Yes. The fat cultivator thought that it made sense. Thus, the 3-inch white flying stone in his hand was thrown out again. It expanded in the wind and instantly became the size of a millstone. It directly smashed towards Sumo. The 9th level of Qi refinement, a foundation establishment level magic treasure. This time, although it is not comparable to the white bone arrow of the white bone female cultivator, it is enough to suppress Sumo. At this time, the immortal Qi in Sumo's Dantian Sea is endless. The blood in her chest has already coagulated. However, her realm is simply not enough to contend against it. At this moment it is impossible to hide. Sumo can only brace herself, hold the broken bamboo pole with both hands, pour the immortal Qi into it, and fiercely whip it. Meet force with force. Chapter 55. To be honest, that broken bamboo pole was really a good treasure. This time, it created a strong gust of wind, and caused a crack to appear on the white stone. At the same time, it changed the direction of the white stone. Sumo had dodged a bullet. However, his cultivation level was too low. Although this head-on clash wasn't like hitting a stone with an egg, he was overestimating himself. The white stone did change its direction, but Sumo's body and the bamboo pole were sent flying dozens of feet away. Bang! Wah! Sumo fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly turned pale. Luckily, the undying energy in his Dan Ocean was endless. In just a few breaths, his blood had calmed down. However, he was only at the 6th stage of the Qi training realm. Even with the broken bamboo pole, he didn't have the ability to fight against someone at the peak of the 9th stage of the Qi training realm. Not to mention that the opponent had a foundation-level magical treasure. Sumo was injured, but he didn't think much of it. However, his performance had greatly exceeded the expectations of the 2 cultivators. How could a cultivator at the 6th stage of the Qi training realm take on the White Dragon Stone? One had to know that the White Dragon Stone was something that even a foundation-level cultivator wouldn't dare to take head-on. It had the strength of a mountain. This little beggar did have some tricks up his sleeve. They were sent here to ensure that nothing would go wrong. It was like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. However, they didn't succeed this time. The white dragon stone was the life magical treasure of the fat cultivator. Now that it was damaged, the fat cultivator was enraged. This caused the fat cultivator to be enraged. You dare to injure my magical treasure? Come again, I'll smash you to death. The fat cultivator in black stood there and clenched his fist. Following his move, the white stone flew back and smashed towards Sumo once again. With a flick of his wrist, the white boulder that had flown out whistled back towards Sumo once again. This time, it seemed to be even more powerful. Pui, Sumo struggled to stand up. He also had the same amount of energy. Although he spat out a mouthful of blood, the undying energy in his Dan Ocean was still there. He felt that he could take it head-on again. Smash me to death? I'll destroy your magical treasure today. Hoo, the black-robed fatty's white dragon boulder seemed to have grown even bigger. It was like a mountain crashing down from the sky. Sumo gritted her teeth and raised the unwithering chi in her body to the extreme. Chi, on the broken bamboo pole, there were actually a few green electric arcs. Sumo closed her eyes and faced the white dragon boulder head-on. Pa boom boom. The collision of the two forces was even stronger than before. The shockwave caused sand to fly all over the sky. The white dragon boulder was once again forced to change its direction, and Sumo was sent flying again. Puff, Sumo spat out another mouthful of blood, but this time she did not fall completely. Instead, the moment she landed, Sumo was able to control her body. This time, Sumo's recovery was actually a little faster than before. Inside the pill sea, 6 water halos shone brightly. Even the void of the entire pill sea was emitting a faint white mist. The unwithering chi actually grew stronger as the battle went on. Sumo touched the blood at the corner of her mouth. Damn fatty, if you have the guts, come again? Let's see if you can smash a little beggar like me to death. Sumo called herself a little beggar, but how arrogant was her tone. Today, he was going all out. Killing one was enough. Killing two, Sumo, would rather die together. Little beggar. At this moment, the black-robed fatty was furious. If he couldn't even kill a 6-stage chi refinement cultivator, what was the point of cultivating? If I don't smash you to death today, then I'm not a cultivator. Whoosh, the black-robed fatty clenched his fists and the white dragon boulder flew back again. There was even a rumbling sound like thunder. Open! The black-robed fatty roared. The white dragon boulder grew a bit more and fell vertically from the sky. Sumo's eyes were red. The unwithering chi in her body was like a tidal wave, rolling and rolling. The white immortal root in her pill sea swayed non-stop and seemed to grow a bit. Break, Sumo also roared. Her aura wasn't weak at all. This time, he didn't wait. His legs exerted force, and he directly shot into the sky. The broken bamboo pole emitted a green glow, comparable to the sun. It was as if Sumo was holding a green lightning bolt in his hand. His entire aura was completely different. A layer of faint white light appeared on his body. This wasn't the combat power that a 6-stage chi refinement cultivator should have. It was definitely a type of berserk. At this moment, the early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator who was watching from afar frowned. Immortal root? Only a 6-stage chi refinement cultivator. Where did he get this kind of power? This kid, if I can't use him, then I definitely can't let him live. The Elder's order was indeed reasonable. The Foundation establishment cultivator's hand was already slightly raised. If the black-robed fatty couldn't kill Sumo, he had to act to prevent future troubles. Looking at the situation, boom, boom, crack, the entire Gobi Desert rolled up 100 feet of sand and gravel, like a tornado. Looking again, 2 rays of white light suddenly fell. It was the white jade boulder. A Foundation-level magic treasure had actually been forcefully split in half by Sumo. Sumo fell to the ground at the same time. Although there was blood at the corner of her mouth and her face was pale, she didn't fall down. She really got stronger the more she fought. Actually, it was because she had met a cultivator like the black-robed cultivator who used brute force. If it was the white-robed female cultivator from the Slekton sect, Sumo definitely wouldn't have the ability to do so. She was killed with one arrow. Little beggar. At this moment, the black-robed fatty's eyes were also red. However, Sumo couldn't see it. One must know that when he used the white dragon boulder to smash the 5 sails, it wasn't damaged at all. Now it was destroyed by Sumo. Give me your life. The black-robed fat cultivator was enraged like a mad bull. His fat body was his weapon. His brute force and physique were even stronger than the white dragon boulder. He roared and roared. In an instant, the fat cultivator's body became 3 times fatter. It was all because of the spirit energy making him look like a diamond. The black-clothed fat cultivator stamped his foot and charged straight at Sumo. At the same time, he swung his fist. The moment he punched out, his fist expanded by 3 or 4 times. Such a thunder god iron hammer. In theory, this punch could take Sumo's life within 3 feet of him. There was no need for his body. Above the desert, the fist wind swept up endless gravel and gravel. Moreover, countless gravel was absorbed by the fist wind of the black-robed fatty. That punch was like a cannonball. Its power was even stronger than the white dragon boulder just now. This time, the fat cultivator attacked with all his might. Even a foundation establishment cultivator would be killed by a single punch from him. Of course, Sumo wasn't as strong as a foundation establishment cultivator, but his bones were hard. At this moment, Sumo was in a state of madness. If you don't kill, it's hard to live. If you don't fight, you have to give your life to others. At the crucial moment, you have to rely on yourself. Sumo didn't choose to crush Su Yike's jade slip. He wanted to find the right path for himself. Just now, although he used the broken bamboo pole to break the white dragon boulder, it gave him a boost in confidence and allowed him to recognize his potential. At this moment, the black-robed fatty's fist was only 3 feet away from Sumo. The fist wind was as sharp as a knife. However, Sumo didn't move. The fat cultivator was even more shocked. Chapter 56. The fat cultivator in black was shocked, but he did not stop punching. Instead, he secretly increased his strength. In fact, this was already his strongest attack. Tu Zhang, the fist wind, was even stronger. Countless flying sand and gravel hit Sumo's body. His clothes were tattered, and there were only strips of cloth left in a few places. However, many of the flying stones were bounced off by Sumo's body. Tu Zhang, one Zhang, the fat cultivator growled. Even a foundation establishment cultivator would be beaten half to death by his full-strength punch. At this moment, the fist was less than 1 zhang away. In theory, Sumo should have been smashed into pieces by his fist wind. However, Sumo was still safe and sound. However, the white gas on Sumo's body was even stronger. Her long hair was flying, her face was blood-red. Actually, at this moment, Sumo was also gritting his teeth and trying his best to hold on. His feet were already half a foot into the desert. If not for the inexhaustible aura in his dance sea and the white light immortal root that was constantly swaying, he would definitely not be able to hold on. His entire body's bones were slightly aching. This was the first time he felt pain in his bones since he came out of Silent Death Valley and ate the half-immortal mantu. The fat cultivator's fist was really too powerful. 7 zhang, 5 zhang, 3 zhang. The inexhaustible aura in Sumo's dance sea suddenly surged. The white light immortal root then swayed. Her tattered clothes could actually still sway, but it was too shabby. Break! Sumo wanted to shout, but she could not open her mouth. She could only mobilize every bit of strength in her body, so that every trace of strength in her body could be used, and poured into the broken bamboo pole. Whoosh! The green light shot out 3 zhang like a flame. The broken bamboo pole seemed to have evolved, and in an instant, it emitted a dazzling green brilliance. Boom! Sumo used all of his strength to meet the black-robed fat cultivator's fist. Boom! Rumble! The collision this time was even bigger than the previous one. Why, there were 2 screams. The fat cultivator and Sumo flew out at the same time. However, Sumo flew further. My hand! The black-clothed fatty screamed miserably. Looking at his entire fist, it was actually smashed, and his wrist was only a pile of meat paste. It was simply too horrible to look at. Sumo, on the other hand, was sent flying dozens of feet away. She was finally stopped by a boulder. Wow woo! He spat out a mouthful of blood. The web between Sumo's thumb and forefinger was torn, and her hands were stained with blood. His body was full of bloody scars. In that last collision, countless flying stones had cut through his body and even stabbed into his flesh. If it wasn't for his special bone structure, this would have been enough to choke him. Even so, Sumo's face was pale, and she couldn't even clench her teeth. Every bone in his body felt like it might be broken. If it wasn't for the incident at Silent Death Valley and the half-immortal mantu he ate, he wouldn't have been able to endure this pain. Sumo's entire body was also trembling, and large beads of cold sweat dripped down her forehead. Our Sumo's lips were also trembling. He had definitely reached his limit. It was already a miracle that a 6th-stage Qi refinement cultivator could heavily injure a 9th-stage Qi refinement cultivator. I'm going to kill you. The black-clothed fat cultivator had already gone mad. One must know that Sumo's bamboo pole could be said to have destroyed one of his fists, and even his future cultivation path. Such a grudge was absolutely irreconcilable. The black-clothed fat cultivator's concealment technique was also dispelled. At this moment, he didn't care about anything else and revealed a hideous face. Sumo saw a brown-yellow mark between his eyebrows. Just as the black-clothed fat cultivator charged at Sumo, the Foundation Establishment cultivator also moved. This battle situation was definitely out of his expectations, and he definitely couldn't allow any more problems to arise. The 2 cultivators attacked at the same time. The black-clothed fat cultivator was in front, and the Foundation Establishment cultivator followed closely behind. The 2 of them approached Sumo at almost the same time. The pressure of the Foundation Establishment cultivators spread out. Sumo couldn't even stand up, let alone fight back. Heh! The corner of Sumo's mouth curled up, her expression determined. Kill one to break even. Thinking to this point, Sumo used all of her strength and crushed the jade scroll in her hand towards the 2 cultivators. Die! Boom! Hua! The jade scroll broke, and an absolute pressure of the Foundation Establishment cultivators spread out. In an instant, a huge gust of wind blew, and within it, thousands of swords shot out, as if there was an army of 1,000. It was a talisman of Su Yike that contained his true power. Windmill 10,000 swords. This was a true Foundation Establishment cultivator's indiscriminate attack. The black-clothed fat cultivator was the first to bear the brunt. No matter what, he didn't think that the little beggar who was about to die would use such a powerful technique. That Foundation Establishment cultivator's pressure instantly caused him to freeze. This was an absolute suppression of cultivation. His body was no different from a treasure, and he couldn't resist at all. Puff, puff, blood splattered everywhere. Immediately after, who knows how many swords of light directly pierced through the body of the black-clothed fat cultivator. That fat cultivator was almost pierced into a sieve. In an instant, he was unrecognizable. What a pity! That powerful cultivator of the 9th level of Qi training died, just like that under the attack of Sumo's Foundation Establishment talisman. The Windwheel lineage. And the black-clothed fat cultivator was indeed a Foundation Establishment cultivator. The moment Sumo took out the talisman, He already knew that Sumo had a talisman condensed from a foundation establishment spell. He even recognized the origin of the talisman. That kind of talisman could only be made by someone in the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. This black-cloved foundation establishment cultivator couldn't do it yet, but he could definitely block this attack. Not to mention, there was the fat cultivator in front of him as a shield. Sumo's talisman dispersed, and the black-cloved foundation establishment cultivator instinctively released a defense of the same level. Boom, chi-chi, the windwheel 10,000 swords was indeed powerful. However, that foundation establishment cultivator wasn't ordinary either. However, in order to avoid the attack, he directly retreated. Some of Sumo's light swords hit the foundation establishment cultivator, but they were all dispelled by his defense. Some of them directly missed. Sumo smiled bitterly in her heart. Seems like I can only use this. That black-cloved cultivator was basically unharmed. As for Sumo, she didn't have any combat strength left. At this moment, he couldn't even hold the broken bamboo pole in his hand tightly. Sumo was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. That black-cloved cultivator landed more than 100 feet away, and couldn't help but sneer. This little beggar did have some trump cards. However, today, he would die without a doubt. The fat cultivator died in battle. Although the black-clothed cultivator had blocked the attack of a foundation establishment cultivator, he still had to be cautious at this moment. Thus, he directly took out a flying sword with a wave of his hand. Not to mention that Sumo was now seriously injured and on the verge of death. Even if he had directly used the flying sword just now, Sumo probably wouldn't have been able to kill that black-clothed fat cultivator. Swish! The nature of a foundation establishment cultivator's flying sword was completely different from that of the cultivators in the 5th level of the Qi refining realm in Slekton sect. An early-stage foundation establishment cultivator could kill someone from 100 miles away without leaving a trace. What's more, the distance between him and Sumo was only about 100 feet. As soon as the flying sword appeared, the sword chi made Sumo's whole body feel a stabbing pain. Little beggar, go die. The black-clothed cultivator's hand seal changed. That flying sword carried the killing intent and pressure of a foundation establishment cultivator and went straight for Sumo. Chapter 57. Swish, clank. Suddenly, a ray of green light flew over from the sky. Just as Sumo was waiting for death, a flying sword flew over from afar and struck the flying sword of the black-clothed foundation establishment cultivator. The two flying swords changed directions at the same time and flew back to their respective masters. Who? The black-clothed foundation establishment cultivator shook his head violently. Not far away, a black-clothed cultivator gradually appeared in the void. He also used a technique to conceal his face. However, Sumo recognized him at a glance. He was the senior brother who had saved her just now. Junior brother Su, I was too late. You've suffered. The black-clothed senior brother's tone was relaxed as if everything was under his control. Mid-level foundation establishment cultivator. The black-clothed foundation establishment cultivator who tried to kill Sumo could not help but be shocked. He recognized the opponent's cultivator at a glance. Who am I? Who are you then? The black-clothed senior brother sneered. Why didn't you wait until 300 miles away? In the 5 Paths Immortal Domain, you're the one who has the ability to kill him. A level 9 Qi refinement cultivator and an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator wanted to kill a level 6 Qi refinement cultivator, but one of them was killed instead. Isn't that shameful? Humph. The black-clothed cultivator snorted coldly. Immediately after, he shook his hand. It was a signal talisman that shot into the sky. The black-clothed senior brother raised his head and seemed to look at the signal. He did not show the slightest reaction, nor did he stop it. All right. Since they're here, I'll kill them all. Although the black-clothed senior brother said that, his actions were not slow. He wanted to help Sumo settle down. Whoosh, with a shake of his hand, a new 5-wheeled flying sail appeared in the void. Then, a ball of spiritual light appeared in his hand and wrapped around Sumo, sending her onto the 5-wheeled flying sail. Immediately after, the black-clothed cultivator took out another talisman and imprinted it on the 5-wheeled flying sail. The talisman was imprinted on the flying sail. Instantly, a defensive formation appeared around the 5-wheeled flying sail. This time, it would not be easy to knock down the 5-wheeled flying sail. 5 paths Mystic Gate. Rise. Following the shout of the black-clothed senior brother, the 5 sails seemed to have a mind of their own. Their speed was twice as fast as usual as they headed straight for the 5-wheel Gate of Wonders. Sumo felt like she was dreaming. The black-robed senior apprentice brother had finally arrived. Sumo lay on the 5 flying sails and finally regained some strength. She immediately grabbed the jade slip that Mu Jinghong had given her. 300 miles. As soon as they arrived at the 5 Paths Immortal Domain, Sumo would immediately contact Mu Jinghong. If the black-clothed senior brother had been a split second slower, he would have been finished. Who are those 2 cultivators? What did he take from them? Sumo pondered in her heart. It shouldn't be something from the soul storage altar abode. This was because the soul storage altar was not a place that just anyone could enter. Then, it was highly possible that it was the brownish-yellow bead that fell from the heavens line of Punishing Heart Cliff. That pearl was still in Sumo's storage pouch. However, he didn't have the chance to think about it. At this time, something in Sumo's arms moved. The little white pig hummed and jumped out. Humph! That little fellow shook its butt, and when it saw Sumo's miserable state, it actually teared up. I'm fine. Sumo forced a smile and sighed in her heart. This master of mine is really too weak. If I had been beaten to death just now, this little fellow would probably have died as well. The little white pig seemed to understand what Sumo was thinking. It stuck out its little tongue and licked the blood on Sumo's face. Humph! Then, the little fellow snorted and directly spat out 2 streams of white gas. Chi. The white gas spread out and directly surrounded Sumo. Sumo instantly felt her body warm up, and the pain on her body disappeared. Humph! Sumo was slightly surprised. This little fellow actually had such abilities. Actually, this was not the first time that the little white pig had treated his injuries. It was just that the last time Sumo was unconscious, she didn't see it. Humph! The little white pig's nose continuously spat out white gas. This time, Sumo's injuries were much more serious than when she fell from Remorseful Cliff. There were countless wounds on her body, but wherever the little white pig's white gas touched, those wounds would all begin to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. The little white pig's body gradually became a little thinner. Humph! That's enough. Sumo watched as the little white pig became thinner, and could not help but feel a little worried. Would this cause the little white pig to hurt itself? Humph! That little fellow did not care about that. White gas continuously gushed out until the white gas enveloped Sumo's entire body. That little fellow had lost at least 2 sizes. Sumo's body was no longer trembling, and she could move her limbs. The white gas was quite magical. Humph! Only then did the little white pig stop spitting out white gas. However, its eyes were almost unable to open, and its body was on the verge of collapse, as if it was drunk. Humph! Sumo could not help but feel worried. However, the little fellow wobbled into Sumo's arms, and then fell asleep. Actually, every time it healed like this, it would consume a lot of the little white pig's soul energy. Therefore, it was very tired. Sumo heaved a sigh of relief. He felt that his injuries had healed quite a bit, and he could already hold the broken bamboo pole with a bit of strength. This made Sumo feel a lot more at ease. The 5 sails headed straight for the 5 mystical gates. Sumo still could not get up, so he could only use the technique to regulate his breathing and heal his injuries. At this time, 300 miles away, a few figures had already flown out and directly met Sumo's sails. Let's not talk about Sumo for now, and focus on the two black-clothed cultivators. The black-clothed cultivator who tried to kill Sumo was an early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. The black-clothed cultivator who was protecting Sumo was a mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. This was a battle without any suspense. The black-clothed early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator understood that he could only escape. He could not defeat a mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. Therefore, almost as soon as he threw out the signal talisman, he began to escape. However, the direction he fled was not in the direction of the Slekton sect, but straight for the 5 mystical gates. If Sumo saw this scene, she would definitely be shocked. However, the black-clothed senior brother who was protecting Sumo did not feel any waves in his heart. All of this was within his expectations. Want to escape? It won't be that easy. The black-clothed senior brother sneered, and then his voice became even colder. Those who hurt Sumo will be killed without mercy. Those few words were abnormally cold, as if it was piercing to the bone. The black-clothed Foundation establishment cultivator, who had already escaped a certain distance, couldn't help but be shocked when he heard that. That was because those 8 words definitely did not come from the mouth of the mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. The mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator was definitely just passing on those words. That was because those 8 words actually contained Taoist rhymes. That was core formation Taoist rhymes. The black-clothed Foundation establishment cultivator, who was about to escape, was instantly stunned. The concealment technique on his face also slightly dissipated. That was because his heart and soul had been completely suppressed by those 8 words. He was definitely going to crush and kill. At that moment, the black-clothed senior brother's body moved and directly arrived in front of him. Without saying anything, he flipped his wrist and an immortal sword appeared in his hand. The black-clothed senior brother had already seen the face of the black-clothed Foundation establishment cultivator. It was an ordinary face with a brown-yellow mark between his eyebrows. This was actually the same as the fat cultivator just now. As expected, the black-clothed senior brother coldly smiled at the black-clothed Foundation establishment cultivator. At the same time, the immortal sword in his hand had already pierced into the black-clothed Foundation establishment cultivator's immortal heart. Pooh! The sword pierced through. A foot-long ice-cold immortal sword was exposed from the black-clothed Foundation establishment cultivator's back. At the same time, the concealment technique on the black-clothed senior brother's face slightly dissipated, revealing his true appearance. "I'll let you die knowing. Look at who I am." At that moment, the black-clothed Foundation establishment cultivator's immortal heart was already shattered, and his eyes were filled with endless fear. "You?" Shun Lang, without waiting for the black-clothed Foundation establishment cultivator to finish, the corner of Shun Lang's mouth curled up. He flipped his wrist and raised his sword. The black-clothed Foundation establishment cultivator was directly cut in half and instantly turned into a mist of blood. Chapter 58. A distance of 300 miles would only take a moment for the 5 sails that had been strengthened. At this moment, Sumo looked up and felt that she would reach the 5 Paths immortal domain in just a few dozen miles. However, Sumo did not relax, because he knew that unless he reached the 5 Paths mystic gate and started the teleportation, he could be in danger at any time. Boom, as expected. Just as Sumo had this thought in his mind, 3 black shadows appeared out of thin air and directly locked Sumo's 5 sails in the void. They were 3 Foundation establishment level cultivators, and they were definitely not early Foundation establishment level cultivators. Whoosh boom, the 5 sails shook. The 3 black-robed cultivators did not say anything and directly attacked Sumo's sails with their magic treasures. 3 flying swords, 3 sword lights. Boom, crack. However, the defensive formation on Sumo's 5 sails was extremely powerful. Just now, although they worked together to stop the 5 sails, the power of the 3 flying swords was not balanced. Thousands of rays of spiritual energy suddenly exploded. The 5 flying sails abruptly moved, unexpectedly breaking free from the combined suppression just now and rushing several kilometers away. The 3 cultivators were slightly surprised. One of them formed a seal with both hands and suddenly saw a black hole suddenly split in the void. At this moment, the 5 sails actually flew straight towards that black hole. It was a rather powerful spell. If the 5 sails really entered the black hole, Sumo would be instantly strangled. At this moment, Sumo naturally had no power to resist. Whoosh! At this moment, a black-robed cultivator instantly appeared next to the black hole. It was Sumo's black-robed senior brother. He formed a seal with both hands extremely quickly. Seal. The black-robed senior brother's hands directly emitted black light. Under the spell, the black hole that had just formed actually disappeared in an instant. Almost at the same time, Sumo's 5 sails whistled past. Everything happened in an instant. The black-robed senior brother did not say much and shouted in a low voice, "Those who hurt Sumo will be killed without mercy." It was still the same words. The hearts of the 3 black-robed cultivators shuddered. However, they were 2 in the middle stage of Foundation establishment and 1 in the late stage of Foundation establishment. Their realms were higher than the black-clothed Foundation establishment cultivator. Plus, the black-robed senior apprentice brother had already used his core formation Taoist rhyme once. That kind of Taoist rhyme technique would be slightly weaker every time it was used. Therefore, the 2 middle-stage foundation-building cultivators paused slightly in the void, but the late-stage foundation-building cultivator was almost unaffected as he directly flew towards Sumo. Seeing this, the black-robed senior raised his hand. The magical treasure in his hand flew towards the late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. It was a small withered vine, no more than 3 inches long. The originally black withered vine expanded to 3 zhang in an instant. The green vines were alive, shining brightly. Like a snake, the vines wrapped around the legs of the late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Actually, a magic treasure like this could not trap a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. As long as the black-robed senior brother could stall him for a moment, it would be fine. Sumo's flying sail was already approaching the 5 paths immortal domain. At the same time, the black-robed senior brother's body moved and went straight towards one of the middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators. The black-robed senior brother was wearing a special battle robe, so his combat power was far greater than the average middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator. In terms of speed, it was even more so. Puff, using almost the same method, the black-robed senior brother's immortal sword directly pierced through the middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator's immortal heart. The immortal sword suddenly flicked, and the cultivator directly turned into a mist of blood. Clean, neat, and ruthless. Because at this time, the black-robed senior brother understood that killing one was one. If he did not kill one quickly, he would definitely not be a match for the 3 of them. Fortunately, the main goal of the 3 black-robed cultivators was to stop Sumo. Otherwise, it would really be difficult for him to deal with the 3 foundation establishment cultivators. He killed a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator. At this time, the other middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator had already dispelled his core formation Taoist rhyme. The black-robed senior brother could not use it anymore. The middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator flipped his hand, and the immortal sword in his hand went straight towards the black-robed senior brother. Both sides seemed to have some sort of tacit understanding. Without saying a word, they only wanted to kill each other. They were both middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators. Though the black-robed senior brother had the support of his battle armor, it was impossible for him to kill them with one strike like he did just now. Clank, in the blink of an eye, both sides had attacked more than 10 times. The black-robed senior brother had the upper hand, but he could not end the battle immediately. At this time, the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator, who was trapped by the green vines, had already formed a hand seal. Looking at his feet, he saw 2 blue flames surging out. The blue flames were as strange as a demon. The moment the green vines met the blue flames, they immediately soared. The late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator sneered, broke free from the green vines, and chased after Sumo. At this time, the black-robed senior brother could only attack fiercely to force the black-robed cultivator away, and then disappear. Teleportation. Actually, this was a technique that only a core formation cultivator could use. It was just that the black-robed senior brother's equipment was too powerful, allowing him to have this ability. However, he could only use this technique 3 times. This time, he surpassed the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. Whoosh! The black-robed senior brother pointed in the air, and a sea of lightning appeared. This sea of lightning was somewhat similar to the Thousand Bones Sea of Lightning from the Slekton sect. However, its power was much stronger than the previous one. What was even more different was that this sea of lightning actually appeared beneath their feet. To be more precise, this sea of lightning appeared beneath the black-robed senior brother and the black-robed late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. The surging sea of lightning was frightening. In reality, this technique was enough to stop a mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator, or even kill them in the sea of lightning. However, the person in front of them was a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. In the cultivation world, the higher the level, the greater the gap between levels. In other words, the difference between a mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator and a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator was greater than the difference between a 9th and 6th Chi training cultivator. Therefore, when the black-robed senior brother used his technique, the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator sneered. Child's play. Looking again, the black-robed late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator had 2 more blue flames beneath his feet. At this moment, the blue flames were like blue clouds. Stepping on clouds to cross the sea. The black-robed senior brother's sea of lightning could not be detonated at all. It was completely useless. The late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator was unstoppable. Destroy. At the same time, the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator waved his hand and a ball of blue flames shot towards the black-robed senior brother. That blue flame was the Foundation establishment cultivator's unique secret technique. That ball of fire was enough to kill a mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. Whoosh! Originally, it was just a little blue flame, but when it reached the black-robed senior brother, it turned into a sea of fire that came crashing down like a waterfall of blue fire falling from the 9 heavens. The black-robed senior brother hurriedly formed a seal with his hands. Whoosh! Whoosh! His black robe suddenly expanded, and the black robe under his ribs stretched out like a pair of wings. At this moment, the black-robed senior brother was like a black bat. The Ink Soul battle robe was definitely not an ordinary item. Without this battle robe, the black-robed senior brother would definitely not be able to withstand the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. Whoosh! Whoosh! The black-robed senior brother raised both his arms, and 2 black gusts of wind appeared. They were like tornadoes that met the waterfall of blue flames. At this moment, the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator did not care whether his technique could kill the black-robed senior brother or not. He only wanted to kill Sumo. The other mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator went straight for the black-robed senior brother. They had a tacit understanding with each other. The black-robed senior brother looked at the mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator and couldn't help but sneer. Then, his pair of black wings suddenly flapped. Whoosh, whoosh. Chapter 59. The fire borrowed the power of the wind, and the wind borrowed the power of the fire. For a moment, the air was filled with wind and fire. One had to know that not every Foundation establishment middle stage cultivator had an ink soul battle robe. The late stage Foundation establishment cultivator's blue flame was extremely powerful. Plus, the black robe senior brother added 2 gusts of wind to it. Whoosh, whoosh. The Foundation establishment middle stage cultivator did not expect the black robe senior brother to have such a fighting method. Strictly speaking, it wasn't a pure spell, but a battle technique. Stealing a sheep, borrowing a knife to kill someone. The black-robed middle-stage cultivator wanted to retreat, but it was too late. However, he was a Foundation establishment middle-stage cultivator after all. Whoosh! The black-robed mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator instantly activated a defensive spell technique on his body. A yellow light instantly protected his body. A Foundation establishment middle-stage cultivator had a lifespan of nearly 200 years. In a second-rate immortal sect, he could easily sit as an elder. Cultivation was extremely difficult. The Foundation establishment middle-stage cultivator before him was also one of the best. That defensive spell was an extremely powerful spell of the Foundation establishment middle stage. If it was just the blue flame, his defensive spell might be able to block it. However, there was also a black wind within the blue flame, and the black wind was definitely not an ordinary wind. Whoosh! The blue flame met the yellow light and stopped for a moment, unable to penetrate it immediately. However, the black wind could penetrate the light defense. The Foundation establishment middle stage cultivator was shocked. The black wind was bone-chilling. It entered his immortal body as if thousands of black insects were crawling inside. Not good. That's the soul-breaking wind. The Foundation establishment middle-stage cultivator's heart went cold. He knew he was done for. The so-called soul-breaking wind was a wind that could directly enter the immortal body and blow away a cultivator's immortal soul. In fact, it was a forceful infusion of spiritual energy, extremely domineering. However, that was a spell that could only be used after core formation, and it was not something any core formation cultivator could do. Just who is this cultivator in front of me? He really was a Foundation establishment middle stage cultivator. However, how could he use the soul-breaking wind? The Foundation establishment middle stage cultivator could not understand and was extremely shocked. However, he would not have the chance to understand. The soul-breaking wind came, his immortal heart was unstable, and his time of death had come. The external defensive spell was instantly shaken. The blue flames directly invaded. The mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator was engulfed by the blue fire in the blink of an eye. That blue flame was an immortal flame, it was definitely not ordinary. Cultivators in this kind of immortal fire were no different from mortals in a sea of fire. This time, it was much more painful than when the black-robed senior brother killed the other mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. Because it wasn't a death by a single sword strike, it was a burning death. The mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator struggled under the dual attacks of the soul-breaker wind and the sea of blue flames. His whole body tumbled in the air, and his screams could be heard for miles. Even Sumo, who was on the 5 flying sails, felt her heart skip a beat. "Senior brother, save me! Master, save me! Grandmaster, save me! Save me!" The Foundation establishment cultivator wailed in anguish, as if he was about to lose his mind. The late Foundation establishment cultivator, who was about to catch up to Sumo, frowned when he heard his junior brother's wail. At the same time, his heart turned cold. However, he did not come back to rescue them. Instead, he suddenly pulled back his hand and a sword light flew out. Pooh! the sword light pierced through the sea of fire and beheaded the Mid-Stage Foundation establishment cultivator, who wind and fire swirled. Following that, the wailing stopped. The Mid-Stage Foundation establishment cultivator's body gradually turned into black smoke in the sea of fire. Even his storage bag was gone. The price of killing Sumo this time was too high. The late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator had no other choice, because he couldn't bear to see the black-robed Mid-Stage Foundation establishment cultivator suffer. He was even more worried that the black-robed Mid-Stage Foundation establishment cultivator would shout something else. At this moment, the black-robed senior brother sneered. At the same time, he couldn't help but think, how decisive and ruthless. If it was me, I might not be able to do it. At this moment, Sumo was only a few miles away from the Five Paths Immortal Domain. Chi, the black-robed senior brother waved his hand. The immortal sword in his hand was summoned again, and it went straight for the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. Now, only the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator was left. Although the black-robed senior brother couldn't kill him, he could definitely fight for a while. Damn it! The late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator knew that the flying sword was coming from behind and was furious. At this moment, he wanted to chase after Sumo, but he couldn't ignore the flying sword behind him. And this time, if he delayed a bit, the little beggar definitely wouldn't be able to catch up. He understood what it meant to enter the Five Paths Immortal Domain. But if he chased after Sumo, the flying sword behind him would definitely pierce through him. It seemed like a dilemma. But since he was able to cultivate to the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator, how could he be an ordinary person? In an instant, the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator made a decision. Whoosh! The late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator suddenly turned around, and there was also a flying sword in his hand. Chi clang! The black-robed senior brother's flying sword was already knocked away by the sword. The difference in level could not be ignored. If it was just now, the Foundation establishment cultivator would definitely turn around and chase after Sumo. But this time, he didn't. Instead, the flying sword in his hand shook and went straight for the black-robed senior brother. A ray of sword light, several electric arcs. The combat power of a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator was definitely not to be underestimated. His sword was also different from others. This time, he chose to kill the black-robed senior brother, because he understood that the task of intercepting and killing Sumo was hopeless. As for the black-robed cultivator who killed two of his junior brothers, he definitely could not let him go. Killing him was also revenge. Kill. A serious late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator was certainly scary. The cultivator's sword light did not stop, and within a radius of a few miles, it was almost completely enveloped by his sword light. At the same time, he formed a seal with one hand, and a blue fire dragon sprang out from his palm. Roar! The moment the blue fire dragon appeared, the entire void shook. The dragon's roar traveled 100 miles. This blue fire dragon was definitely not on the same level as the blue flame just now. If the black-robed senior brother wanted to use the soul-breaking wind to destroy it, it would be impossible. However, the black-robed senior brother was not afraid. In the void, he first dodged the flying sword light, and then quickly formed a seal with both hands. Water Spirit Mirror. Seal. Following the black-robed senior brother's technique, a silver water curtain instantly appeared in the entire void. Whoosh! The water curtain really appeared out of thin air, and it formed a hexagonal enclosed space, trapping the blue fire dragon inside. The moment this technique was used, the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator was shocked. Water Wheel Technique. Who the hell are you? Withered Vine Technique, Dao Rhyme Technique, Soul-Breaking Wind, Water Spirit Mirror. In theory, these techniques could not appear on a cultivator. And who are you? The black-robed senior brother sneered, and instead of answering, he asked a question. I'll tell you after I kill you. Do you really think that you can trap my fire dragon like this? Dream on. The late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator's hand seal changed. Roar, roar, looking again, the blue dragon that was trapped by the water mirror actually raised its head and roared. Then, on its neck, there was actually a dragon head on each side. However, these two heads were actually red and yellow. Roar, roar, the three-colored dragon head raised its head and roared, and its anger soared to the 9 heavens. At this moment, the expression of the senior brother, who was covered by the technique, also changed. Chapter 60. The tricolored dragonfire was divided into 3 colors and could burn a completion-level cultivator. The senior brother in black didn't think that this foundational advanced stage was such a powerful character. With this tricolored dragonfire, he could contend with a completion-level cultivator of the beginning stage. Retreat. The senior brother in black didn't dare to continue fighting. This was not a technique he could block. Teleportation. The senior brother in black had 2 more teleportations and he wanted to head towards the 5 wheels. Theoretically, he could teleport twice and arrive at the 5 wheels immortal realm. However, the senior brother in black realized that he had only teleported less than 3 meters away. He was shocked. Junior, you can't escape. Reveal your true face. The foundational cultivator had already caught up. 3 dragon heads descended from the sky. The spirit anchor technique. The senior brother in black immediately understood. The advanced stage of the foundational cultivator in black had a lot of battle experience. The first time he teleported, the opponent already saw through it. Therefore, the foundational cultivator in black had already used the spirit anchor technique to render his teleportation useless. After all, the senior brother in black's teleportation technique was not his own power. This was troublesome. The senior brother in black didn't think that he would encounter such a powerful opponent. The tricolored dragon fire landed. The 3 dragon heads were like 3 demons, ferocious and horrifying. Water soul, seal. The senior brother in black could only use one last technique. It was still the water soul seal. However, this time, he didn't seal the tricolored dragon fire. He sealed himself. The reality was, this technique couldn't stop the tricolored dragon fire. It just wouldn't be incinerated right away. At the same time, the senior brother in black curled up and his black robe emitted an endless amount of black light. Crack, crack, crack. At that moment, the ink soul battle robe's shape changed. Like an ink-colored armor, it completely wrapped around the senior brother in black. The senior brother in black turned into an ink-colored ball. However, the ball was not smooth at all. It was pieced together by ink-colored iron plates. Crack. Under the tricolored dragon fire, the water soul mirror instantly melted. It didn't have much of an effect. Then, the tricolored dragon fire surrounded the ink-colored ball and burned it. Death was only a matter of time. Even within the ink soul battle robe, the black-robed senior apprentice brother could feel the temperature of the tricolored divine flame. Even with the ink soul battle armor, he wouldn't be able to last more than half an hour. Under such circumstances, the black-robed senior brother no longer cared about his own life and death. He only wished that Sumo had flown back to the 5 Paths immortal domain. That way, he would have accomplished his mission and died a worthy death. At this moment, Sumo had rushed into the 5 Paths immortal domain. In fact, it was only a few dozen li. The black-robed senior brother blocked with all his might and killed 2 mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. In the end, the late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator was also blocked several times and could only give up on Sumo. This gave Sumo a chance. The moment they entered the 5 Paths immortal domain, the formation on the 5 sails shook. At the same time, The black jade slip in Sumo's hand that was connected to Mu Jinghong also heated up. I've finally entered the service area. There's a signal now, haha. Without any hesitation, Sumo crushed the black jade slip. This was because she had no idea what would happen next. She could not let the black-robed senior brother take the risk. Senior sister Mu, Sumo called out in her heart. Pa, as soon as the black jade slip was crushed, Mu Jinghong, who was on Sky Wheel Mountain, immediately knew. Mu Jinghong understood the pride in Sumo's bones. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, Sumo would never crush the jade slip. Mu Jinghong's expression changed instantly. Who dared to touch Sumo? That was someone from the Silent Death Valley. At the same time, a teleportation formation appeared under her feet. Mu Jinghong raised his eyebrows. His face was filled with murderous intent as he stepped into the formation. As soon as Sumo stepped into the Five Paths Immortal Domain, many changes occurred within the Five Paths Immortal Domain. A bunch of trash. In the dark and damp cave within the Five Paths Immortal Domain, the pale-faced old man could not help but curse in his heart. He raised his hand slightly, and 5 rays of light and many mirror images appeared in his palm. Everything seemed to be under his control. But it wasn't just here. Inside the Five Paths Immortal Domain, several rays of light shot out from the peaks of the other mountains as well. Among them, there was a faint aura of a completion stage cultivator. At that moment, the mountains of the Five Paths Immortal Domain shook, but most people did not know what was going on. On the Yangzhen Peak, Windmill Su Yike was performing a divination. The divination was confusing, but he had already reported everything about Sumo to Windmill Mountain. He believed that the eldest senior brother of Windmill Mountain would take care of everything. On the square of the Yangzhen Peak, Guan Xiong squinted his eyes. When he saw the rays of light rushing out of the Five Paths Immortal Domain, his expression changed. Completion stage cultivators, elders, and leaders have all come out of their caves. Then, Guan Xiong regained his composure. He squinted his eyes as if he was watching a show. This is not a small show. But that little beggar is only a heaven immortal root. I don't think it's necessary. There was a trace of doubt in Guan Xiong's eyes. Inside the cave at the gate of the Yangzhen Peak, the simple-minded Bai Lai was still sleeping soundly, drooling for a long time. At this moment, he only turned over once. Of course, even if he knew that Sumo was going to die, it would be useless. However, in the 2 months without Sumo, Bai Lai was really lonely and slept most of the time. He didn't clean the cave much, but Bai Lai was doing well. Very few people asked him to clean the cave. At the border of the Five Paths Immortal Domain, almost at the same time that Sumo crushed the jade slip, Sumo felt several extremely overbearing auras rushing towards her. Among them, there were cultivators and spells. What's going on? Sumo's heart sank. How could there be so many powerful attacks in the Five Paths Immortal Domain? There seemed to be sword rays rising from a few miles away. There seemed to be spells being launched from a few miles away. There seemed to be magic treasures being launched from a few miles away. Sumo seemed to have become the target of everyone. Those people actually wanted to kill Sumo. This was indeed a situation that Sumo didn't expect. What the hell was going on? However, at this moment, Sumo didn't have the chance to think too much. An inescapable net descended from the sky. More than a dozen murderous auras went straight for Sumo. However, it was almost impossible to kill Sumo in the Five Paths Immortal Domain. Whoosh, whoosh, at that moment, a teleportation formation appeared beside Sumo. In fact, the formation had already appeared the moment Sumo crushed the jade slip. The jade slip that Mu Jinghong gave to Sumo contained a teleportation formation. It was a type of rapid teleportation that could be activated as long as one was in the Five Paths Immortal Domain. Its speed was far faster than the large-scale teleportation formation in the Five Paths Immortal Wheels. However, it could only be used once, and it could only teleport one person. Therefore, the formation automatically activated when the jade slip was crushed. The formation that Mu Jinghong stepped into and the one beside Sumo were like two sides of a mirror. One entered and the other came out. In less than 3 breaths, Mu Jinghong's black dress fluttered in the wind as she coldly stood beside Sumo. At that moment, Sumo was in a trance. Mu Jinghong was really beautiful and stunning. At this moment, Mu Jinghong stood beside Sumo. Sumo's heart rippled with an indescribable warmth and emotion. Sumo knew that she was safe. Chapter 61. Within the universe, many things can happen in an instant. Sumo will forever remember the moment when Mu Jinghong saved her. On the Bone Continent, at the border of the 5 Paths Immortal Realm, Mu Jinghong was wearing all black and seemed to be in control of the universe. "You are seeking death." Mu Jinghong was cold and threatening. Looking at the incoming attacks, she was as still as a mountain. At this moment, her killer's intent could be felt miles away. Because the moment she stepped into the array, she began to form a hand seal. The peak of the foundational level, half a step into the completion level. Of course, this was only Mu Jinghong's external capabilities. As for Mu Jinghong's true capabilities, the 5 wheels did not have an accurate assessment. After all, Mu Jinghong has never lost. Capable of killing a completion-level cultivator. This was the most basic measurement. To the 5 wheels, this was not a secret. This was Mu Jinghong's publicly acknowledged capability. Those who attacked Sumo did not expect Mu Jinghong to suddenly appear. Or else they wouldn't dare to do this. Because they were about to pay the price with their lives. Right now, Mu Jinghong's palms were clasped together and raised above her head. Her perfect body was on full display. However, nobody had the chance to appreciate Mu Jinghong's beauty. Half a step into the completion level, Mu Jinghong was the god of death. In an instant, an endless wave of light formed around her, spreading out like waves. Tianluan! Tianluan! Mu Jinghong let out a shout and spread his arms apart. At that moment, Mu Jinghong was truly like a black swan spreading its wings. Boom! Hua! With Mu Jinghong and Sumo as the center, a wave of destructive energy expanded outwards. Everything within a radius of 10 miles seemed to be engulfed by an unstoppable force. This was a technique that attacked indiscriminately. At the same time, it was also an ultimate technique from the Tianluan clan. It was also a completion-level technique. In the entire 5 wheels, Mu Jinghong was the only foundational cultivator who could use this technique. Mu Jinghong's expression was cold and his eyes were full of killer's intent. No matter who it was, as long as he could kill them, Mu Jinghong would not spare a single one. Mu Jinghong's viciousness far exceeded everyone's imagination. Stunning white bones for 3,000 years. In reality, the bones of the cultivators who had died at Mu Jinghong's hands could be piled up into a mountain. She was an enigma, a legend. On the 5 sails, Sumo was dumbfounded. Under Mu Jinghong's spell technique, the destructive energy surged forth like a river bursting through a dam. Almost everything in its path was reduced to ashes. Ah, puff, wah woo, wherever the heavenly annihilation chi went. He destroyed things on sight and killed people on sight. It was like a black hole that devoured everything. Sumo had never seen such a spell before. The heavenly annihilation technique was incomparably domineering. Among the last batch of cultivators attacking Sumo, the one with the highest cultivation level was at the peak of the middle stage of foundation establishment. Because the mastermind behind the scenes really didn't expect that the group of late-stage foundation establishment cultivators would actually fail to intercept and kill Sumo. He had no choice but to act in the 5 Paths Immortal Domain. He didn't have much time to prepare. In fact, only the planner knew that all of these people were cannon fodder. In the end, even if they killed Sumo, they would still be silenced. Heaven Wheel. Heavenly Annihilation. Though this spell was powerful, there were still 2 or 3 cultivators who didn't die because of their treasures. Mu Jinghong's lips curled up and his hand seal changed. Whoosh, whoosh, a black light flew out of her storage pouch. But Sumo didn't even see what it was. However, the black light seemed to let out a shrill cry. Like the cry of a crane, it pierced through the 9 heavens and spread across the entire northern domain of the 5 Paths Black Feather deity. At this moment, the cultivators on the 5 Paths who knew how powerful Mu Jinghong was frowned when they heard this cry. The few core formation cultivators who were about to arrive also grinned. Mu Jinghong was furious. Black Feather deity was Mu Jinghong's spiritual bird. It was extremely ferocious. Legend has it that the Black Feather deity was formed from the spirit of the river Styx. The highest level deity could fight against dragons and phoenixes. Mu Jinghong's Black Feather deity could at least fight against intermediate stage core formation cultivators. Actually, everyone knew that killing a few foundation building cultivators didn't require the spiritual bird. It was obvious that Mu Jinghong had taken it out to intimidate them. Sumo didn't know what it was. A black light flew out and in the blink of an eye, it circled around and came back. Ah woo! A few miles away, there was a scream followed by 3 clouds of blood. Whoosh, screech. The black light circled around Mu Jinghong's body. At this moment, Sumo finally saw it clearly. The black light turned out to be a large swan-like bird with black feathers and a sharp red beak. It was more than 5 feet long, but when it spread its wings, it was nearly 10 feet long. The black feathers on its wings were shining. Among them, there were a few long feathers that looked like black swords. Its claws were like silver hooks, shining brightly. What shocked Sumo even more was that there were actually 2 human heads pierced through the red beak of the giant bird. However, Sumo didn't recognize those 2 cultivators. But between their eyebrows, there was a brownish-yellow mark. Mu Jinghong glanced at the 2 heads, smiled coldly, and waved his hand. The Black Feather deity understood and lightly shook its head. 2 human heads flew up, then it suddenly opened its beak and swallowed the 2 cultivators' heads. Hiss! This scene made Sumo suck in a breath of cold air. These spirit beasts and immortal birds all had a special taste. The little white pig liked to eat souls, and it wasn't that scary, but this black bird actually ate human heads. This scene was too impactful. Silence. There was a moment of silence at the border of the 5 Paths immortal domain. Because all the cultivators just now were killed by Mu Jinghong. In an instant there were more than 10. Mu Jinghong stood beside Sumo, unmoving. The Black Feather deity hovered in the air, like a goshawk in the dark world. At this moment, who dared to touch Sumo? Whoosh, whoosh. 5 or 6 figures landed in front of Mu Jinghong. In fact, Mu Jinghong had already seen them. They were all core formation cultivators from the 5 wheels. In other words, they were the top power of the 5 wheels. One of the core formation cultivators didn't stop and went straight to the late Foundation establishment cultivator not far away. Mu Jinghong didn't kill him just now. White Bone Demon, do you think there's no one in the 5 Paths? The red-robed core formation cultivator was furious. How could a late Foundation establishment cultivator resist the pressure of a core formation cultivator? Not to mention that the late Foundation establishment cultivator didn't expect a core formation cultivator to attack him. Boom! The core formation cultivator suppressed the late Foundation establishment cultivator and turned him into a mist of blood. Once the late Foundation establishment cultivator died, the tricolored divine dragon fire naturally dissipated. The black-robed senior brother was saved. Crack, crack. The black soul battle robe disintegrated before he stood up. Cough, cough, cough. The black-robed senior brother kept coughing. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. He's my man. Chapter 62. Oh. So he's one of Junior Sister Mu's people. It's good that he's fine. The red-robed core formation cultivator had the appearance of a middle-aged man. He had a pair of eagle eyes and a thin face. He didn't look like a good person, and he had a fake smile on his face. It was a cultivator of the early stage of core formation. However, it was an unwritten rule for the core formation cultivators in the 5 wheels to address Mu Jinghong as junior sister. Elder Hong, your fire chakra lineage is really powerful. You killed a foundation establishment late stage in one go. Mu Jinghong sneered. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and gave the senior brother in black an elixir. The black-robed senior brother didn't say anything and directly swallowed it. It was an ice spirit pill, which could alleviate the fire poison just now. The black-robed man instantly felt much better. Oh? No, no, no. Junior Sister Mu, you're too kind. At this moment, Elder Hong spoke again, and then he said solemnly, we must eliminate all evil. The Slekton sect has gone too far. They actually chased me to the border of the 5 paths immortal domain and injured my disciples? If I don't kill him, I won't be able to calm my anger. Slekton sect? Ha! Mu Jinghong sneered. What about the cultivators and Dharma treasures from the 5 paths immortal domain? If I remember correctly, the Fire Wheel lineage is in charge of the 5 Wheel North region, right? That's right. That's right. Elder Hong smiled again, then cupped his hands towards Mu Jinghong. The safety of the North region is indeed the responsibility of the Fire Wheel lineage. It was indeed our negligence that allowed the thieves to sneak into the 5 paths immortal domain. However, Wu Luan and Bai Gu have been fighting openly and covertly for tens of thousands of years. I'm sure Junior Martial Sister Mu knows about it. It was inevitable that a few thieves would occasionally sneak in. Thanks to Junior Martial Sister Mu's help just now, we didn't suffer any heavy losses. I hope Junior Martial Sister Mu won't blame us. Of course I understand. Mu Jinghong looked at Elder Hong and smiled faintly. I didn't lose much, but I'm afraid that someone lost too much. Foundation establishment cultivators aren't existences that can be grabbed by the handful. After saying that, Mu Jinghong glanced at everyone present. His gaze instantly turned deep and cold. It was obvious that he was hinting at something, but he didn't say it out loud. Ah! Killing some cultivators from the Slekton sect was just a trivial matter. One day we'll head north and flatten the Slekton sect. At this moment, another core formation cultivator laughed and tried to smooth things over. Yeah. It's good that you're fine, haha. The others also echoed. It seemed that the deaths of over a dozen cultivators and the fact that Sumo was being hunted were not a big deal. Mu Jinghong sneered, as if he was watching a clumsy performance. At this time, Sumo could barely sit up straight on the 5 flying sails. As she watched and listened to everything that was happening before her, she couldn't help but feel a slight chill run down her spine. She was even a little terrified when she thought about it, because the atmosphere here was a little strange. There seemed to be a hidden meaning in all his words. Sumo recalled the story of the inner circle that Zhao Yunxing had told her. Within the 5 wheels, the relationship between each faction was rather subtle. Could it be that the one who wanted to kill me was a 5 wheels cultivator and not a cultivator from the Slekton sect? Then Elder Huoluan was the one who wanted to kill me? Sumo's heart shuddered. Why? He didn't understand. Sumo could only silently listen and observe. Everything was illogical. At this moment, other than Elder Hong, there were 4 other cultivators. 3 men and 1 woman. Other than the Fire Wheel faction, there was actually 1 person from each faction. The one from the Tianluan faction was an elder in the intermediate stage of the core formation realm. He wore a long green robe and smiled without saying a word. Because Mu Jinghong was from the Tianluan faction, there was no need for him to say anything. The Tianluan faction wouldn't be at a disadvantage in the end. The one from the Earthwheel faction was also an elder in the intermediate stage of the core formation realm. He wore a brownish-yellow robe and had a gentle expression on his face. He kept looking at Sumo. Just now, he was the one who mediated the situation and laughed. The one from the Water Wheel faction was a beautiful woman. Although she was old, she still looked attractive. She wore a light blue dress that made her even more seductive. Actually, the one with the highest status among them was this woman with the Water Wheel faction, because she was the first seat of the Water Wheel faction. However, her cultivation level was still at the early stage of the core formation realm. Thus, it was obvious that the Water Wheel faction was weak. The first seat of the Water Wheel faction was emotionless and was basically just watching from the side. However, he was sneering inside. The last male cultivator looked like a perverted uncle. He wore a gray robe and looked a little sloppy. He didn't care about his appearance and his beard was unkempt. He didn't look like a proper cultivator and didn't look like an immortal at all. However, there were 3 storage pouches hanging around his waist, which was rather special. However, his cultivation level was the same as Mu Jinghong's and he hadn't completed the core formation realm. He was at the peak of the foundation building realm, or rather, half a step into the core formation realm. Without a doubt, this perverted uncle had the lowest cultivation level out of everyone here. Nobody knew how he got into a team of this level. He was from the Wind Wheel faction. The Wind Wheel faction was the weakest of the 5 wheels. Zhao Yunxing once commented on the Wind Wheel faction. The Wind Wheel faction was the most miserable. They had the least number of people, and had no disciples to choose from for many years. Now those disciples were either crazy or in dire straits. Therefore, the Wind Wheel faction could be said to exist in name only. That was definitely a pertinent comment. At this moment, the perverted uncle seemed to be a little absent-minded. He seemed to be standing there just to keep up appearances. That was because he knew what everyone was here for. However, all of this had nothing to do with the Wind Wheel faction. In the 5 wheels, the Wind Wheel faction was actually dispensable. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that they only existed in name only. Perhaps the meaning of the Wind Wheel faction was that they were not used to changing their name to the 4 Wheels faction. Therefore, even though there were people from the Wind Wheel faction here, they were automatically ignored by everyone. That wretched-looking uncle looked left and right, agreeing with whatever everyone said. The incident of Sumo being chased seemed to have passed just like that. Even Sumo felt that it was a bit childish. I, Sumo, am an authentic disciple of the 5 wheels. Even if I'm an outer disciple and have no status, a few Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators died just now. But, quite a few Foundation Establishment cultivators died just now. Don't tell me we're just going to leave it like that? Aren't we going to investigate? Aren't we going to hold them accountable? This is because I'm not dead. If I'm dead, who can I reason with? Wouldn't I have died in vain? Sumo kept asking questions in her heart. She didn't understand the situation in front of her at all. However, no one present seemed to care about Sumo's thoughts. They all knew the rules. It was a terrifying and inexplicable tacit understanding. Even Mu Jinghong didn't seem to be entangled in the matter of Sumo being chased. If things were abnormal, there must be a reason behind it. Sumo frowned. Of course, she couldn't ask or say too much. It was really scary to think about it carefully. However, Sumo would definitely think about it carefully when she went back. At this moment, the cultivators of the 5 wheels actually didn't move. They didn't seem to have any intention of returning to the sect. Suemo cursed in his heart, these guys, what are they doing here? They're having a meeting. I still have injuries on my body. I want to go back to the Yangzhen Peak. At this moment, Sumo looked at the nervous group of 5 wheels cultivators and suddenly felt that the cave abode at the Yangzhen Peak was so warm and beautiful. The strange thing was that Mu Jinghong actually didn't move either. At this moment, the mid-stage core formation realm cultivator from the Tianluan lineage finally spoke. He looked at Mu Jinghong and Sumo and said casually, "Junior sister Mu, bring Sumo back to the Tianlun mountain." Mu Jinghong nodded. "I'll listen to Elder Du's arrangements." Return to the Tianlun mountain? It was an understatement, but everyone knew what it meant. She had cultivated for less than a year and was already at level 6 of the Qi refinement realm. Sumo was the first person since the founding of the 5 Wheels. Her future was limitless. If she was brought back to the Tianlun mountain, wouldn't she become a disciple of the Tianlun mountain? Chapter 63. Sumo might mean a nascent soul or even a soul transformation. This would have a huge impact on the entire 5 Wheels, let alone one faction. Everyone understood what that meant. This was also the most important reason why these almighties left the cave when they sensed that Sumo had returned to the 5 Paths immortal domain. No one was willing to let such a disciple fall into the hands of others. They represented the attitudes of the various bloodlines. Sumo didn't need to wait for the child cultivation competition or the inner disciple selection. With his aptitude and cultivation speed, it was entirely possible for him to enter the inner sect. Among the 5 chakras, the heaven chakra meridian suppressed the other meridians. One of the most important reasons was that their first seat was close to the nascent soul realm, and the other was that their disciples of the younger generation were outstanding. Mu Jinghong was the most outstanding representative. Elder Tianluan's words seemed to be an understatement, but in fact it was an undeniable responsibility. That was because the most outstanding disciples of the 5 Wheels had all entered the Sky Wheel Mountain. The Heavenly Wheel lineage was getting stronger day by day, and the other lineages could hardly catch up to it. Hearing Elder Tianluan's words, Mu Jinghong naturally nodded. However, at this moment the Earth Wheel Elder spoke. "Sumo has yet to recover from her injuries. Our Earth Chakra lineage's purple spring is a healing holy water. In my opinion, we should first let Sumo soak in the purple spring on Earth Wheel Mountain for 3 days. That would be the best plan. Otherwise, it won't be good if his cultivation is delayed." "What?" The Tianlun Elder looked at the Earth Lun Elder and sneered. "Elder son, are you saying that our Tianlun lineage's Sky Dew isn't as good as your purple spring?" That Earth Wheel expert, Elder son, smiled and didn't say anything. "When it comes to healing, I feel that our Fire Wheel Mountain's Jade Fire Divine Elixir is the best. Brother Su, the Fire Chakra lineage sincerely invites you to the mountain for treatment. Stay here for a few days." Huolun Hong's words were the most direct. He spoke directly to Sumo. Sumo was a little confused. This was an open robbery. Although this was definitely a good thing for him, he still felt a chill. Why do I feel like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered? In terms of healing, who can compare to my ice cicada pill of the water wheel lineage? You should know that an ice cicada pill can raise a foundation establishment minor realm. At this moment, the head of the water chakra lineage also spoke. Sumo thought to herself, didn't they say that the water chakra lineage mainly consists of female cultivators? Why was she joining in the fun? However, if there were more female cultivators, it would also be good. However, the chief monk of Water Wheel looked at everyone in the field with a smile. In fact, she just wanted to muddy the waters and raise the price too high. Speaking of which, the ice cicada pill was truly a healing panacea that the other branches could not compare to. The perverted uncle from the Windwheel faction subconsciously opened his mouth when he saw the commotion. However, he didn't say anything in the end, because the Windwheel lineage really had nothing. At this moment, Elder Du of Tianluan could not help but frown secretly. Usually, the Earth Chakra lineage could compete with the Heaven Chakra lineage, but today, the Fire Chakra and Water Chakra actually had the intention to compete with each other. Only the Wind Chakra was considered normal. Humph! Elder Du of Tianluan sneered and said slowly, "Join my Tianluan mountain and you will be rewarded with 1,000 talismans, 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones, 3 foundation establishment pills, and 1 core formation level magic treasure. This was considered a lot of rewards. Join my Earth Chakra Mountain, and you will be rewarded with 1,500 talismans, 1,500 middle grade spirit stones, 3 foundation establishment pills, and 2 core formation level magic treasures. Elder Son of Earth Chakra smiled faintly. The chief monk of Earth Chakra had ordered him to get sumo at all costs, so he was very confident. For the Fire Chakra lineage, you will be rewarded with 1,500 talismans, 1,500 middle grade spirit stones, 3 foundation establishment pills, and 2 core formation level magic treasures. In addition, you will be rewarded with a foundation breaking pill. Elder Huoluan Hong didn't want to be outdone and increased the price again. Broken eggs. At this moment, Sumo was a little confused and blurted out. She thought to herself, what's the use of broken eggs? I don't even want to eat low-grade spiritual food. Not only me, even Hung Hung doesn't want to eat it. Broken eggs? We don't want good eggs. The Fire Chakra lineage is too weak. However, Sumo's question almost made the cool and elegant Mu Jinghong laugh out loud. Cough cough. The black-robed senior tried hard to hold back his laughter. Junior Su, it's not a broken egg, it's a foundation-breaking pill. The foundation-breaking pill is used by late-stage foundation establishment cultivators. 1 foundation-breaking pill can increase the probability of forming the core by 30%. Oh. Sumo was embarrassed. He really didn't know what a foundation-breaking pill was. At this moment, the chief monk of Water Chakra looked at Sumo and smiled charmingly. Our Fire Chakra lineage doesn't have a foundation-breaking pill. However, we have the same conditions as the Fire Chakra lineage. Brother Su, our Fire Chakra lineage has many female cultivators, so we don't have to worry about choosing 2 cultivation companions. Do you understand? Sumo blushed, but when she thought of Lao Xuantu's words, her heart couldn't help but sway. To be honest, he was a little tempted. Fairy. If I sleep with that fairy, Lao Xuantu's words rang in her ears. However, just when Sumo's heart was moved, Mu Jinghong, who hadn't spoken, coughed heavily. Immediately, Mu Jinghong's voice rang in Sumo's ears. It was a cold and secret voice transmission. Don't even think about the Fire Chakra lineage. Otherwise I'll kill you. Sumo's heart trembled. That sentence scared Sumo so much that he became smug on the 5 flying sails. Just now, when Mu Jinghong killed people, he clearly saw it. In an instant, the fairy and whatnot directly dissipated. Being tempted was also very painful. Lao Xuantu is really a troublemaker. Sumo muttered in her heart, but this senior sister Mu is too strict. It's a pity that I don't have a chance with the Water Chakra lineage. The Fire Chakra lineage will reward 2,000 spirit talismans, 2,000 mid-grade spirit stones, 3 foundation-breaking pills, 1 nascent soul-level magic treasure, and 2 foundation-breaking pills. Elder Du's face was slightly cold. In terms of strength and foundation, the other lineages were all trash. They really didn't know when to stop. The Earth Chakra lineage will reward 3,000 spirit talismans, 3 mid-grade spirit stones, 3 foundation-breaking pills, 1 nascent soul-level magic treasure, and 2 foundation-breaking pills. Elder Son of the Earth Chakra lineage was still calm. Elder Huoluan frowned, then gritted his teeth and added another 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. The chief monk of the Water Chakra lineage smiled and didn't say anything. To put it simply, in the end, the reward increased to 5,000 spirit talismans, 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones, 3 foundation-breaking pills, 2 nascent soul-level magic treasures, and 3 foundation-breaking pills. The value of these things was enough to ensure that a mediocre cultivator could become a core formation cultivator. The 3 lineages seemed to have put in a lot of effort. At this moment, the Fire Chakra lineage was still gritting their teeth, but Elder Hong's forehead was already covered in cold sweat. Elder Tianluan didn't get the instruction to do whatever it took, so he was also a bit hesitant. Mu Jinghong kept his eyes down and didn't say anything. In fact, Sumo hoped that Mu Jinghong would say something. Wouldn't it be fine if he just listened to Mu Jinghong? I won't let you go to the water chakra lineage, but you can say something about the others. However, apart from the threat just now, Mu Jinghong didn't say anything else. Elder Tianluan slightly hesitated. However, at this moment, a voice came from the void. It was the voice of the chief monk of the Sky Chakra lineage. At this moment, on the Sky Chakra mountain, the middle-aged cultivator in a long robe was sitting cross-legged. He was the chief monk of the Sky Chakra lineage. Double. Sumo instantly felt a headache. I'll double too. The voice of the chief monk of the Earth Chakra lineage also came. In fact, they were all paying attention to the situation at the border of the Five Paths Immortal Domain. Although the chief monk of the Fire Chakra lineage also came, his voice was full of disappointment. He couldn't afford to play. I'll double. The domineering voice of the chief monk of the Sky Chakra lineage came. He was at the peak of the late core formation realm, half a step into the nascent soul realm. At this moment, everyone felt their ears buzzing. However, at this moment, several black lines appeared on Sumo's face. Chapter 64. Fight the Landlord. Hee hee, you don't say. The 5 chakra meridians really do have a bit of that taste. The heaven and earth chakras did not give way to each other. The water and fire chakras could not keep up with the rhythm. The windmill chakras did not even enter the game. The perverted man was dumbfounded when he heard about the rewards from the heaven and earth chakras. When did the windmill chakras see so many talismans and mid-grade spirit stones? There were only a few nascent soul-level dharma treasures in the entire windmill chakras. How could he give it to Sumo? Foundation-breaking pill? If he had the foundation-breaking pill, would he still be at the peak foundation establishment stage? He would have eaten it long ago. Why would he give it to Sumo? Hee hee, I have 2 stupid eggs in my storage bag. I can't compare. I can't compare. Sigh. The perverted man sighed in his heart. The windmill chakras did not even dare to think about the crazy rewards from the heaven and earth chakras. However, the perverted man gradually looked at Sumo with a strange gaze. At this moment, Mu Jinghong glanced at the wretched uncle and indifferently said, "Senior brother Liu, Sumo's intentions are not to be taken lightly. Didn't you see how those people died just now?" The perverted man looked at Mu Jinghong and smiled awkwardly. "Junior sister Mu, you're thinking too much. Why would I have ideas about him? We don't dare either." Humph. Is there anything in the 5 wheels that the windmill chakras do not dare to do? Others may not know, but I am very clear about it. If Sumo is missing even one thing, I will attack the windmill mountain. Mu Jinghong sneered. No. The perverted man smiled awkwardly and did not speak. Smart people were like this. It was always right to speak less. What can you do to me if I don't speak? Mu Jinghong did not speak anymore. However, Sumo did not understand what they were talking about. Junior brother Su, the windmill chakras have a master thief. You have to be careful when you enter the intersect. The 5 wheels chakras often lose things. The black-colored senior apprentice brother reminded from the side. This senior apprentice brother Liu in front of us is also an extraordinary person, a master craftsman. As a foundation-building cultivator, he was able to craft a core formation level treasure. Don't underestimate him. However, he is a stingy person. Who knows, he might have designs on your belongings. Oh, thank you, senior brother. Sumo nodded. Only now did he remember that he hadn't had the time to thank that senior brother in black. Junior brother is impolite. I haven't thanked senior brother for saving my life. Junior martial brother Su, you're welcome. I'm just following orders. There's no need to thank me, I just hope that junior apprentice brother Sue can be gentler when he hits me next time. Ha! The black-clothed senior brother laughed in a low voice. Ha! Sumo was stunned. At this moment, the two of them whispered to each other. While no one was paying attention, the black-robed senior apprentice brother's face was slightly dispelled, allowing Sumo to see his true appearance. It used to be a face that deserved a beating, but now, it was a sincere smile that warmed Sumo's heart. Shin Lang! Sumo was instantly stunned. Senior apprentice brother? Shin Lang's face flashed by. Junior Sue, how close are we going to be in the future? The closer the better. Sumo agreed, but he was a little lost. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart. There were too many secrets in the 5 wheels. The person who saved her was actually Shin Lang, who she punched away that day. That day, Shin Lang had bullied Bai Lai to the point of suffocation. Now, it seemed like he did it on purpose. The heaven and earth wheels were still competing. Right now, it seemed like they were no longer fighting over Sumo. Instead, they were trying to prove who was the first meridian of the 5 wheels. Whether they fought for Sumo or not, it was a form of recognition and a symbol. Actually, there was no doubt that the heaven wheel meridian was the first among the 5 wheels. However, today, the earth wheel meridian seemed to be holding back and wanted to compete with it. At the same time, on the ancestral spirit peak of the 5 wheels, the blind patriarch sat cross-legged in his cave abode and sighed helplessly. These unfilial disciples are a disgrace to the name of the 5 wheels' ancestral master. Each generation is worse than the previous. No wonder the 3 great experts were so disheartened that they left the sect. That's not a heavenly immortal route. The blind patriarch lamented to himself, but he did not want to interfere. At that moment, a white light suddenly appeared in front of him. Within the white light, there was the shadow of a middle-aged cultivator in white robes. However, his face could not be seen clearly. The blind cultivator's eyes were blind, but his heart was not. At his level of cultivation, his eyes could be said to be dispensable. The white light in front of him was a soul-dispelling body. The blind patriarch hesitated for a moment, as if he could not believe his consciousness. However, he instantly knew that he could not be wrong. Master, you actually. The blind patriarch was so excited that he could not speak coherently, as if he did not even dare to dream that something like this would happen. Didn't Master die? Let that Sumo join the wind wheel lineage. The middle-aged cultivator in white robes said in a faint voice. Wind wheel lineage? The blind patriarch was slightly hesitant. Although he had yet to calm down, he knew that there was no way he should let Sumo join the wind wheel lineage. Master, that Sumo is, and the wind wheel lineage, I know. The cultivator in white robes did not let the blind patriarch finish. Let him join the wind wheel lineage, but he can stay in the cave abode temporarily. As for the rest, it will depend on the luck of the 5 wheel sect. The middle-aged cultivator in the white light gradually disappeared. Master! The blind old cultivator almost knelt down and crawled toward the white light. However, the white light disappeared as soon as it appeared. Blind, don't worry. I'll be with you. Those were the last words of the middle-aged cultivator. Blind, I bid farewell to Master. Blind, I bid farewell to Master. The blind patriarch kowtowed to the ground with tears streaming down his face. No one knew the pain in the blind patriarch's heart and the respect he had for his master. At this moment, if someone were to see this patriarch, they would probably go crazy. Was this really the 5 wheels' old ancestor? At the border of the 5 wheels' immortal domain, there was still a stalemate. Hearing that the heaven wheel and earth wheel experts were not giving way, Sumo really wanted to stand up and shout, "Let me join the inner sect. Did you guys ask for my opinion? Why are you making such a fuss? You're too insincere. Look at the water wheel." Unfortunately, he couldn't stand up at all. Moreover, when he had that thought, Mu Jinghong glanced at him. He seemed to know what Sumo was thinking. "Shut up." Sumo lowered his head silently. He was very obedient, but he felt a little wronged. "I didn't say anything." The fight between the Heaven Wheel and Earth Wheel experts seemed to have reached its climax. This was because the voices in the air were getting more intense. The two representative elders at the border of the Five Wheels' immortal domain were also looking at each other angrily. The sound transmissions in the air seemed to be able to create sparks. Many disciples of the Five Wheels knew the current situation. At this moment, an indifferent voice came from the ancestral spirit peak of the Five Wheels. "First seats of the Five Wheels, you're fighting for people in the air and doubling the rewards. You're like an ordinary peddler shouting and raising the price. Are you still a member of the Celestial sect? Do you still have the celestial intent of the Five Wheels in your hearts? Do you still care about the ancestral spirit peak?" The voice was indifferent, but the continuous questions were like thunder in everyone's ears, shaking their souls. The pressure of a nascent soul realm expert spread out with a hint of anger. The entire void of the Five Wheels seemed to be covered in thousands of black clouds, and it was extremely oppressive. That was the absolute control of power. The entire Five Wheels could kill whoever it wanted. "Patriarch, please calm down. Patriarch, please calm down." In an instant, the first seats of the Heaven Wheel, Earth Wheel, and Fire Wheel branches appeared in the void and bowed in the direction of the ancestral spirit peak. All the cultivators at the border of the Five Wheels, including Mu Jinghong, knelt on the ground with solemn expressions. Who dared to not bow to a nascent soul patriarch? Of course, it was Sumo. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.